Welcome back to Stephen the Games podcast. Your host right here, the most, Stephen Watts. Joining me, Cameron Simmons today. I was my co-host. And
Caden Cronin, pleasure to be here. First time.
awesome.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. We're glad to have you, Caden, a part of the team. You know what I mean?
Off the sabbatical, I'm back on my bullshit.
Right. I was gonna say you've been gone for a grip.
Been off for a minute, but
Well, we're glad to have you back too.
yeah, it's nice to be back. I mean,
I want to say, tell the people what you've been doing. I mean,
Yeah, what's been going on in Cam's life? I heard you talking about some nursing and stuff.
actually nothing but bullshit as usual. But got a new place, got a new job.
Mhm.
I have to just take care of shit. That's solid for my life. So
100%.
Take some time, but I'm glad to be back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, we're glad to have you back, dog.
All right.
Oh, I don't.
Oh, you already drank you already finished yours? No. I understand. It was delicious. Thank you, Antonio.
It's been fun.
Yeah, shout out Antonio with the grape juice and fucking rum.
Yo,
Shout outs.
The greatest combination that I
Caribbean
never
vibe,
knew.
right in the Midwest.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that.
Some slight. Well, you know what I'm saying. On to sorry to bring up such a sad
Yeah,
topic.
a sad
It's
topic, first
topic.
one.
Yeah,
But-
deep, but Julio,
Gangsta's
Gangsta's
Paradise.
Paradise, yeah. Came out in 1995. He passed on.
I believe it
was
was
When?
September 28th is when his obituary was dropped, so that must
Wednesday?
have probably, yeah. Yep.
Wednesday.
So that's still recent. Literally, while I was at work the other day, hopped in somebody's car, Gangsta's Paradise comes on. It literally couldn't have been worse timing. Song just at the beginning, and you know that beginning's so hard. It comes in,
Yeah.
and
As I walk through the
Yep.
valley of the shadow.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was confirmed by his manager. He died at a friend's house, and no cause was given at the time. But since that article, it was updated to a heart attack. So, 59-year-old,
young age.
right? That's tough. I mean, especially I think he's passed on by his wife and only one son. So that's gonna be tough. Well, probably has a little bit of money to kick back on, but
Hell of money.
Yeah.
I think it did win a Grammy in '96, and then it also won Song of the Year in '96 as well. So that was definitely a classic and definitely a staple in the '90s Americana in general. So
I agree. We were listening to it at work at Hotbox, and I was like, damn. My bosses were all like, you don't even understand.
yeah, 100%. See, and that's the thing
I
is
was
we
like-
really don't get it because that's like the old heads. That's like they were definitely distraught by the news, 100%. I mean, and it feels like they're
the
losing.
guy at your job.
Literally, he said, "All right, I gotta go." But I told him I was like, "Yeah, gangsters." He didn't even know Coolio passed, and he said, "All right, I gotta go."
I should call my mom. I don't know.
Right.
If she, honestly.
Swear to God.
But
Speaking on the rap game,
Right.
and an old head at that, 50 Cent's new show.
more our generation.
Right. Look, he tends more towards the early 2000s, but 50 Cent's new show, Homicide.
What's that about?
It's called For Life, and it is about a wrongfully convicted man who then has to. It kind of goes through the pitfalls of an empathetic, wrongfully convicted prisoner and his steps towards freedom. And it kind of will go, I assume, deeper. From what I saw in the trailer,
Is
50
this-
Cent kind of looks like the antagonist in it.
Is this based off of a true story?
I believe it is.
Huh?
I said, isn't it always?
Yeah, it's
you
hit-
know,
right.
you know,
Based-
they always say,
yeah,
they
100%.
always say it's very fairly based on a true story. Yeah.
But from the tomato meter gives it an 86%, and the audience scores at an 89%. So people who have seen it are really liking it.
Which season?
This is brand new. They dropped the first season, so and you can check that on Hulu, Apple TV, Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it is inspired by the true story of Isaac Wright Jr., who was in prison for a crime that he did not commit. So,
But it's
like you said, isn't it all?
isn't it all like
So I mean, I'm sure that they'll stick to some stuff, and then it's Hollywood. You got to exaggerate others.
Power.
Yeah, right. Power.
Power's based off of every drug dealer in New York. I mean, there's no
real power?
who you putting the name on. Who you gonna put the name on it?
Swear.
It is a real situation.
How do you feel about wrongly convicted? Not just black people, but just like wrongly convicted people in general. Like how do
You could go with the old saying, I'm pretty sure one wrongly convicted free man is worth releasing 1,000 criminals. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna mass conviction.
I've never heard this shit.
Here, I'll look up the direct
But,
quote.
whoa.
Here,
I
got
was
you.
gonna say, I don't freaks with people being wrongly.
Yeah, that's just.
But also, it's kind of like, that kind of leads you with like the Chicago situation.
what should I situation?
I mean, like there's no bail. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of like the same thing with that. Now that leads you to that situation with like having like people who are wrongly convicted, because now you want people who should be convicted, but they're just gonna be roaming the streets as well. So I don't know how you really solve it. You know?
Well, see, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the bail situation. The bail situation in most major cities right now, with them being set so low by the judges and things of the like. I mean, you'll literally have people who have committed multiple felonies getting out the next day just because they committed a misdemeanor. I mean, that's the repeat offenders are able to get out in these big cities, and that's like the real problem. That's why you hear about those stories of like people literally taking their shit and like shoving it in people's faces while they're waiting for their train. And they'll get arrested, they'll get caught. Some probably don't. And then when they do get caught, they're out the next day because of these cashless bails that, like these newer policies of cashless bail.
Right.
So, because they made the argument of cash bail, so like had to have the cash with you, and rich people were typically the only people that could do that right then and there. You know what I mean? And now they do it to where you only have to pay a certain amount. Like I think it's like around half, and then you have to pay the rest later on. I'm not exactly sure on the specifics of that, but yeah, you can get out just paying half. So some people are getting out after doing some heinous shit. Not terrible. It's not like they're like sexually assaulting or like stabbing people.
There was like, I think it's like what, manslaughter you get out, or 2nd-degree murder or some shit like that.
I mean, yeah, and
I was
also
like, that's kinda wild.
shoplifting is in most major cities. They raised the prices on that, and most of them said that they wouldn't prosecute below a certain dollar amount. So you literally have people going into these stores, filling up their bags, and just checking the prices. Literally making sure that they wouldn't go over that amount. So I think we are a little bit too lenient on it. But I understand when someone is convicted wrongfully. I mean, that's a terrible tragedy. But also I think it's more a symptom of the amount, the pure amount of cases the American justice system has to deal with.
I mean, their percentage of what trial rate, or what is that? Like percentage that they are like right, like with criminals. What is that called?
What you mean the conviction? The conviction?
rate.
Yeah, the conviction
Like,
rate.
it's
But
like what,
that's like
90%?
that's basically just like a made up thing so that DAs could go and like run on like in campaigns and shit. Is a conviction rate because
most of it goes into like they have a settlement. Like,
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
95% of cases like they end with the settlement.
Settlement out of court. So it's like the system is definitely broken, and it definitely leans towards the wealthy. But there have definitely been, I'm sure, loads and loads of cases of men and women being locked up wrongfully. But I'm interested to see this purely because 50 Cent's going to be the antagonist in it, from what I gathered from the trailer. He's going to be the kind of guy who's like, man, you need to accept this. Like, you're in jail. This is your life
You in jail
now.
for life, dog. You ain't gonna be able to learn nothing in here.
Acting reminds me of that. I always think about this shit recently. I don't know why. When he was like, fucking, they were doing him and Floyd in a fucking ice bucket challenge, and he was like, fuck the ice. If you can read one page of a Harry Potter book, nigga. And now he's
That's
acting.
one of the best internet call-outs of all
I
time.
know, bro.
Literally,
All time.
bro. He said,
I always think about this shit.
he said, Floyd. He said, if you can read
One fucking page of a Harry Potter
Literally,
book,
bro. He said
you know?
one fucking page.
I'll
A
donate.
page.
I'll donate 100,000 to any charity you pick.
Fuck that.
Fuck the ice.
But since he is acting and producing in this, the trend right now in Hollywood has kind of been that they're losing out on money, especially actors, because they used to get those big paydays from theaters when it would do well. And then also something that I recently found out is the reason why we don't have those like smaller budget but just really classic movies is because we don't have the DVD releases anymore. And that apparently used to be like a major dollar getter for those smaller studios, and actors would also get huge payouts from it. That's why
Blockbuster was the first thing that disappeared when
Netflix came
Blockbuster,
out.
yeah.
Well, Red, what is that? Redbox?
Red
Redbox kind of
Right.
killed
Nigga,
Blockbuster.
bro. I
Right.
was getting shit from Redbox. Bro,
Early.
games,
I was gonna say video games.
Yeah, I remember
That shit was-
I
that
had
shit was
Netflix when
ridiculous,
Netflix
nigga.
was a disc delivering service.
Exactly, bro. You would go to like fucking Kroger or something. And you would like,
little red folder.
bro. I didn't even remember.
Swear.
Yeah, I do
Swear.
remember that actually.
I
Yeah,
remember that shit.
and you
I
once
did
you're done,
that.
you put it back in, put it in the mail. That was great, but
We bought a couple
now
of
we
DVDs.
see overall net
Bro,
benefit
what
from
if they
streaming
kept? What if they
services.
kept the games? That'd be wild.
The game, well, I think people have tried like the game, but
There's Netflix games.
no. They like other companies have tried doing like delivery based disc gaming.
Yeah, I remember back in the day there used to be on my TV.
Yeah, I swear, I saw
I was
ads
like,
for it
what
when
the
I was a
hell?
kid, but
People
I
were
was
like,
just-
yeah, I paid for like $50 a month and I get like 6 video games
like,
shipped to me a month, and I'm like, damn. What back in PS2 days, I was
right?
like,
I swear,
that's hard.
but
It's like that's a deal and a half, but
100%. But and Hollywood's definitely, I mean, it's shifted.
yeah.
All everybody watches streaming services. Everybody. There's not a single person you know that doesn't
They
watch streaming
force you
services.
to
Right.
only watch
And
streaming
it,
services.
but overall, I feel like it's a net gain for the consumer. You get a bunch of stuff for a reasonably low price, and I don't know. I feel like instead of having to go to the movie theater where you pay for more like the experience of it with the popcorn, the drinks, you know.
That's why I like going to Flix so I can just have a meal
Yeah.
with my movie.
Flix Brew House is definitely.
Was that Carmel?
Yeah, there's a couple out in Arizona too, but so basically you get served your full dinner while you're watching a movie. You can get drinks. They have their own brewery there, so
Oh, it's like City Movie.
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it literally
it's
is
like
like studio movie.
I was
bro.
gonna say,
Upgrade it.
No, it's like a 10 times nicer studio movie, bro.
It's really nice.
It's
It's definitely
elite.
if
That's
I
literally
if
the
I
word
if I
for it.
go see a movie in a theater, I'm
What'd you
doing
say?
that so I can knock out dinner.
Yeah.
too.
yeah, they put more money behind Studio Movie Grill, it'd be Flix, but they just
Just don't.
you know,
Is the food good? Is it
It's
not
fire.
good?
every time.
Yeah, it is
Shout
really
out to
good.
Flix Brew House.
Yeah, shout out Flix. Brother worked there for like 3
I
years.
used to always see him when I used to pull up base, but it was good comedy.
He loved it. He loved it. Good place to work.
It's definitely a good place. So, oh, speaking on actors and producers. Olivia Wilde, actually, she's not acting.
Who was that again?
Olivia Wilde.
What's
She have you
She's
seen
not
Tron?
acting anymore. She's directing.
You've seen Tron, right?
Yeah,
She's the
that's
female.
not-
She's the
I
female.
don't even remember. That's not.
She's more of like a persona, I feel like, than an actual actress. Like I couldn't name you much of her work, but I know most of her work's not geared towards me. So
Yeah, she's been like she was in that Ryan Reynolds movie, wasn't she?
Which one?
he's in 1,000 movies.
You're not wrong. And he's like. Make that comparison.
No,
Well,
I
the
like Ryan
first-
Reynolds.
the
He's been
first-
having more of a
the-
YouTube
bro,
presence.
The first thing I looked at, I see when I look at fucking Olivia Wilde, something about Jordan Peterson. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No way.
Yes.
Yeah, because did you not hear about that?
No, what happened?
So she based the antagonist in the movie after Jordan Peterson.
No, what?
Like so the movie takes
What
place like in a
movie?
Don't Worry Darling. Yeah, Don't Worry Darling. It's it's like
It's
pa-
Warner Bros. movie.
yeah, it's been all in the news. I mean, it's been all in the news. So like Jordan Peterson, she based the bad guy in her movie off of him, and which is played by Chris Pine, and it's like takes place in a desert community, and he's basically like a cult leader out in this religious community, and they're basing, I mean, ignorantly she's basing it off of Jordan Peterson because Jordan Peterson, from everything that I've read and I've
Harry
read both,
Styles is in it also.
yeah, Harry Styles. Well, that's what I think. That's why I think it's getting a lot of money at the box office because Harry Styles is literally one of the most famous individuals on the planet.
Well, she's dating him.
Yeah, she's
Just
dating.
Who's dating? who
she's
now?
dating him. You know he's.
Well, right, dating. I mean, it's like it's Hollywood, bro. It's all fucking weird.
Oh, you're saying like
Because
because
they apparently started like seeing each other. Apparently, when she was still with her ex-husband, who like he was in like We Are the Millers. He was the dad in We Are the Millers. If you saw that movie.
So that what is that?
She's kind of mid though.
What is that? He was in
We Are the Millers.
Yeah, she's alright.
Just look up We Are the Millers.
You know, we talk about Olivia Wilde.
No, I know. I'm trying to say Jason Sudeikis.
I'm not convinced.
Yeah,
He's Ted
That's
Lasso. He's going to win the. didn't
That's
he win
Ted
the-
Sudeikis or
Oh,
something.
she was
Yeah.
married to Ted Lasso.
Yeah, she won. He didn't he win an ESPY this year, or not ESPY, but an Emmy.
Yeah, he did.
For his
I mean,
Ted
I don't
Lasso.
think it was this year, but
I think it
it
was this
I think
year.
it
What?
was this year. Yeah, I think he won. This
I heard
year.
something about that.
Yeah, for Ted Lasso. Yeah.
yeah, that Ted Lasso and
I heard it's funny as
We Are
fuck.
the Millers is like the only things I know. He was also on SNL for a little bit.
He's in Horrible Bosses.
Oh yeah, Horrible Bosses. What is it?
Hall
Angry
Pass.
Birds 2. That was. Oh yeah, you know everybody's seen Angry Birds 2.
And Angry. I mean, it's SNL.
Yeah, I mean he's in basically just a bunch of rom-coms. He seems like a
He's a
rom-com
rom-com actor. Yeah.
just kind of guy.
Oh, he was in 30 Rock. Oh, the campaign.
But yeah, so Don't Worry Darling has been like all over the news because the JP thing, the fact that she's dating one of the actors.
So why did he cry to it?
He did so I think he cried recently on a Piers Morgan interview because they were talking about incels as like a community. Which, if you break it down, incels really is just a group of really, like, extremely lonely men. Like, if we're gonna break it down to what it really is,
They are really
just extremely lonely, sad men, and everybody in the world can take shots at an incel, and there's no repercussions at all. And I mean, I'm not saying it's rightfully so, but like, they need to get their lives together and need to stop seeing women as like objects, like legit, like
Okay,
that.
yeah.
That's like part of their ideology.
Yeah,
it's
I
like
know.
just being straight derogatory towards women
I
and stuff.
know.
Like it's not the women, boys.
Yeah.
It's you.
It's you, bro.
It's you. Like, it's just how it is. But I think he shed a couple tears because that's mainly the type of dudes who listen to his stuff is dudes who are extremely lonely and sad, want to better their lives, and he just felt emotional about it, which I completely understand. He's a psychologist. He's been working with men and women for over 30 years trying to help them better themselves. And as soon as he is doing that on a large, like a very large platform, literally arguably one of the most recognizable intellectuals in this age, like people from both sides know this guy. Yeah, Jordan Peterson. So
I never really thought he was that smart.
you never thought he was that smart.
Cam doesn't freak some Jordan Peterson.
I think
That's
you
where
don't
we
fuck
get
with him
into some
because
debates.
you disagree with him ideologically.
I
So it's like
I'm not a
I
big
get it.
fan of like self-help, like that whole thing in general. I don't think.
so what would you tell people that
I think
are lonely and depressed and
Mr.
don't want to do
Psychologist.
nothing?
I think that you have to look at yourself. At least how I see it is like health is like holistic. So you can't just try to be like, oh, I need to get my mind right, and not try to like to get your body right. You can't be like, oh, I need to get my body right, but not like actually like have like a mental like and like a spiritual thing like you're like going for, like I'm gonna strive for. So like I think that like self help is good in a way, but like
It helps thousands of people.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like I'm not, in my opinion, I'm not receptive to it, and I'm just saying like.
And there's definitely a good swath of people that aren't receptive to that type of.
But I think like his self help is like, yes, his self help is good. Like, yeah, I agree. Like, you read like it's 12 like, it's 12 fucking what is it
12 rules for
12
life.
rules of life. So listen to his examples of the lobsters and shit.
Okay, well that lobsters thing, he's talking about how when he's using that example, he's talking about how ingrained hierarchy is in us. It's hierarchy is so ingrained in us that it's hundreds of millions of years old.
Okay, but the hierarchy, he's still like advocating for keeping the hierarchies around, like in form of like
I mean, yeah, I argue hierarchies are good for society. It brings structure.
Hierarchies are good for society.
Yeah, 100%. It brings structure. And people, not everybody is a super free and independent. Like some people just want to live and laugh and love and like just chill out, and they need structures in society.
But how is someone? But with hierarchies brings like hierarchies. Okay, let's take it back like the hierarchy question. Like, but what comes with hierarchies? Like people like they use
Prosperity sometimes.
But for who though? That's what I'm trying to get to. Like some hierarchies bring benefits for some people, and hierarchies bring like detriments to others. So who are you to say like because hierarchies have brought benefits to like maybe?
I think if you build a hierarchy correctly, it can benefit a large amount of people.
You sound like you fuck with Andrew Tate.
No, I mean Andrew Tate is a goon, and he's definitely way too much of a bite, if you know what I mean, for me to want to take it. Like he has way too much of a bite, like his delivery style. Like that's just not who I would ever want.
He's not understanding. Of
like I don't need some self-proclaimed alpha male how to teach me how to be alpha.
How to be cool and shit. That's
It's like
just lame.
It's
That's
like
that. That's why I was like, I feel like Jordan Peterson is on like the more mild end of that, like teach you how to be alpha male spectrum.
He doesn't teach you how to be an alpha.
I'm trying to say, like people take that and they run with it. They're like these 12 like rules of life and shit. I'm running with like he's teaching me like hierarchies are good and that I need some people just need to be like subservient and under other people like and I don't.
No, I mean there's something called a working class, a middle class, and then you have the elite.
But he is like we need to keep those structures in place so people can continue to be subjugated.
Well, 100%. I think he.
And you don't think that's just like
I think
people have used
people.
that.
Subjugated is a weird term to use in the modern age, but. Because we're not subjects of this. We're citizens, and we all have.
Subjugated you're bringing the connotation of being a subject, but subjugated that like a connotation also that comes with that is someone that's being like walked over.
I know, but who's real?
You can be a citizen in this country and be walked over. Come on now, Mississippi. There's people in Jackson don't even have water, bro. Like that's not. And we're like we are the richest country in the world, and like. These
Yeah,
people
I
don't
mean,
have
and
water.
also, I don't even think Flint's still gotten clean
But
water.
my
so-
point exactly. Like, Flint's
Well, it's
not
all
a-
about the tax dollars in that area, and I
Okay,
do
so-
believe that the federal government.
And there's a
it's
higher,
the
and there's a-
government.
and- okay, so but the people at the better end of the hierarchy that have more tax dollars get better like what public infrastructure. You think that's like? And
Well, I
that's
mean,
what-
it only makes sense if they provide more into the system that they would get more
okay,
out
but,
of it.
But listen, we know
Right?
But we know that this system has like people that are being subjugated.
I'm
It's
not- I'm
you're
not-
saying, and you know the system is not just for people. You that's
It's
something we,
it's
that's something
it's
you and me
just
can agree
it
on.
would 100. It's not just for everybody, but it is
Okay,
just for
so
most.
We know. Okay, for most.
Yeah, for most.
Why?
Because
I don't know if I would agree on that.
because I don't think that. I mean, we talked about how easy it is to get past the bail system. That's a new thing. That's
What does that
equalize.
have to- What is that? I'm talking
He's
more
saying
like,
that that's the system trying to them trying to correct the system.
Right, that's them
not
trying
in
to
every-
correct the
that's
system.
not-
But
that's
then you
not-
see him
that's
try.
not
But
in every state.
But
Every state
but I'm
has
and I
that.
told you when they tried to correct the system even a little bit with that little law, what started happening? You started having a bunch of
So you
there's
so
a
you're-
bunch of
so-
systems.
So do you think this system was set in place by the hierarchy that we have right now?
I think a lot of really smart people have put a lot of hard time and thought into our hierarchy.
So our hierarchy, you think our hierarchy is correct, but they put
disagree.
together a flawed system.
I think that there's definitely.
What makes these people so much smarter than you or me?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what
Oh,
makes
but-
people
okay.
have a higher IQ than others.
I mean, you're
And tell me what you think.
IQ. Well,
And tell me what you
That's
think.
like subjective. That's off of a test. I'm talking about what makes a person decide that these hierarchies are better for everyone in society versus the people that are at the upper end of the hierarchy.
I think that
we're saying like people should just be like
I think people who have put in.
smaller for the rest of their
I think
life
people
because
have
they're
put
in
a
the lower.
lot of time and thought into these things. Definitely should have more of a say, and people who are in elite positions have that ability
But
to
why
not have to
are
worry
they-
about
but
the
why
next.
are they in these elite positions?
A lot of them for a lot of different reasons.
Okay, so
So
let's break down some of those reasons. Some of that is like wealth and that hierarchical structure that has been brought down to them. The same thing with how these kings got fucking divine right. They didn't get divine right from God.
no.
They
There's
not-
a lot
It's
of
like the same
American.
thing.
There are a lot of Americans, especially back in the day, who when they got their money.
They got that shit from fucking indentured servitude, slave labor, and owning land. That's why these are
Why
was
then?
in
Why
the
did
upper
the
end of hierarchy.
why did the industrial magnates make more than the slaveholders ever did?
Bro, what? Because that's
They
the
paid them,
trend-
but
that-
they paid them, but they paid those
the
workers, but they
industrial-
didn't have to for
what
the
industrial magnets are you talking about? What
like in
who-
steel
what
and
are
in
we-
iron and on the
that's-
railroads.
That's basically that infrastructure and that industrial revolution wasn't even after. That was more after the Civil War. But like the cotton gin and all that shit, they had to.
Yeah, I mean, when you had to, when you could replace.
But look, America as a hierarchical structure, the hierarchies we have, and the power we have, none of that shit would be here without free labor. Free,
I disagree.
But you can't though, because how can you have a society that competes with all
Free
the rest?
labor.
It's just-
I mean,
No. Like, think of
labor.
it this way. Like,
No, well, let me
America
finish my
is
thought.
able
No,
to
let me
compete.
finish
Like
my
we were
thought.
just about to
Let
say.
me finish my thought. The free labor that I'm referring to is the slave labor, but the cotton that was picked in the South and processed was distributed to the North, where it would go over to England to the rest of the fucking world, and then from England it would go like to France or like anywhere else that was set up from the British colonies. Like that's literally part of the triangle trade. That's how they got so rich. How
No, I mean-
how could you have an industrial heart pumping out what product like that? You can't have that without having labor to do that. Who makes the product?
I know, but we're talking about economics that was so long ago. How
that's-
America got its wealth in the modern age is because we took all the gold
That's where
from
it-
Western Europe
That's where
when we
it's-
put them in
but
war
that's where
debts.
That's where it started though, and then
But-
through that
but-
through that labor they got it, and like through that labor and through that process the people, the industry people, and the Robert Burns, like Carnegie and like Rockefeller, they just switch that. It's like, okay, the black people, we're just gonna do like lower class people and have them just do all their fucking work for us and make a bunch of money.
Well, right, and they would pay them shit wages, 100%.
And,
But that's
and
why.
child labor too. Like,
Well,
so
right, and
I
that's
mean,
why
so
we
that's-
banned that.
But
There were
I'm
steps.
saying though, there are people back then, just like there are now, who advocated for those hierarchical structures. Which that's the whole point I'm trying to say.
I think a lot less people were advocating.
Do you know what happens when people take over a land that already has people on it?
I mean, yeah, you have to disperse the land, and I mean, for in the American case, there was nothing developed here. So,
Let me say it in like the Spaniard conquistador case.
like in the conquistador, yeah, that's a totally different. That's a totally different civilization.
Nothing. I mean, they always like
There was nothing here.
like in North America. Or
Yes,
Wait,
there was
wait,
nothing here.
let him speak.
When a higher developed civilization, environment, whatever, we can say the Spanish community or whatever, when you get to a lower developed civilization and you take it over, those people now become workers.
Well,
They have to now be
outgate.
integrated into society.
Yeah.
they tried. I know that the colonizers, they tried to use Indians as slave labor, but they were dying too fast from disease. So that's why they ended up going with African slave labor, because it was cheap and easy. You pulled up to the coast, they were already there in cages, and then you bought it and you went.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
I'm not. We're not. I don't think he's saying that like.
But like in North America, I think Spanish colonization of the Latin America, what we call Latin America now, and the British colonization of North America, totally different things.
They are totally different.
Because there was a thriving culture, like
I know, that's
really
why I said-
developing
that's why I made
culture.
that
I mean,
situation,
they
because
had
that
their
was
whole
a
city
culture
built
that
on
was
a lake.
thriving.
I
Well,
mean,
I thought that's where Antonio was
There
going
was
with
cultures.
like
There was
when you have
cultures in North
a
America,
higher
too. You can't
educated
just say there was
culture.
nobody here. There were
There
was
were
nothing
there
here.
were
There
people here,
here.
but they. I mean, Caesar
They
was
were
fighting more
nomadic
advanced people.
Like, okay, so understand.
Does that make them less of a person?
Well, no, it's just in that time frame you see it as, oh well, there's nothing here. They don't build anything.
The people that were
There's
here
no
in America,
infrastructure.
They weren't connected to the rest of the world. So
They
like,
weren't.
America,
Right.
Mexico, everything down there, like they were cut off from the rest of the
Yeah,
world.
they
So
didn't
when
even
got
hear-
here,
Yeah.
They were a great deal behind them, but these were just the same way it was in South America. In
Yeah, they were
Latin
developing
America. It's
peoples.
like they were developing people here. They were nomadic people, so they weren't like in
They were
buildings.
hunting.
Well,
Yeah,
no.
there's-
Even
They
at
still
that
had
point,
a
they
life
weren't.
set up.
They weren't fully nomadic. Like
They had like
depend on the
tents and shit,
season.
like
and stuff.
In North America, I would say they're more nomadic than in South. And
Yeah,
Central.
no, 1,000%. The more south you went towards where the former Incan Empire was,
Yeah, I
which was
gonna
in
say,
Peru,
you get
up
the
until
Maya and you get the Aztecs, and they're all centralized
Right.
and stay
They
home
were,
where they're
they were
at.
smart enough to know how to cut rocks and build.
yeah. I mean, they
Like,
were using.
I mean, and possible communication with, you know, a lot of people nowadays, they think they're in communication with aliens because, like,
No,
like,
bro.
there's
No.
so much stuff.
Man,
No.
let's just let's
No.
not let's not
Aliens,
start that.
no.
I'm telling y'all.
Let's not start that.
No, they weren't. They what I think is
Well, the
we were
pyramids built by
totally
aliens,
wrong
too.
on our guess of when they crossed the Bering Land Bridge.
I heard about that recently.
The
too.
like that because we base it off of an archaeological site called like the Clovis site or something like that. I think it's the Clovis site, and it was 13,000 years old. So we were like, okay, so we'll ballpark it around then. But we just found another site recently that they're estimating is between 25 and 30. That changes up your whole perception on life here. So with that, I mean, but it also proves another point. Like, they were here for an extremely long time, an even longer time than we thought, and they developed at a much slower pace. It's obviously because
Like Antonio said,
it's
cut
based off
from-
of soil.
I think it's more just being cut
No,
off from
it's-
everybody.
a lot
else
of it's
as well.
a lot of it's based off soil.
Education,
not
is
having-
shared, knowledge is
Yeah,
shared.
but by the time
They didn't have pack
By the
animals.
time
Yeah, they didn't have
whoever
pack
you want to
animals.
give the
That's
credit
true.
to
Yeah.
got here, like when by the time they found these people, they had already built suits of armor.
Well,
They were
right,
already
literally imagine-
civilized and making
Imagine
democracies and
the most-
hierarchies.
That's what I'm
The
saying.
most advanced
Knowledge
tool
is
you have
shared
is
still,
a
though. That's-
stone one, or because they weren't using like
No.
I mean,
They weren't
you're
smelting-
using
they weren't
arrows when
smelting
somebody's
weapons.
shooting
I
somebody,
know.
shooting
So-
something at you with a bullet. Like that's what I'm saying. Knowledge is shared
I
around
mean,
the world.
well,
Like I'm
right,
talking
and
about,
also
you get on boats and they still got a raft sitting in the water.
That's what I'm saying.
Well,
like
and-
it's just being cut off. That's really what's
They
separated.
just didn't.
I mean,
know,
yeah,
they
and
know
this-
how to build that stuff.
and when the Spanish, I mean, they literally based their first initial ambush of the leader of I think it was it the Mayans at that time, or was it I think it was the Aztecs. Yeah, it's the Aztecs. Yeah, so they used a old story from ancient
They
Greece.
use their religion. against
That, so you have to think of shared knowledge. That
Yeah.
soldier was using knowledge that was thousands of years old.
Because they
when
get
there wasn't
Montezuma.
when the,
But
right
what-
Montezuma.
when
that's what it is.
Montezuma, the only people in that on that entire side of the world that knew how to read or write was a very, very select elite people. So
Probably
you
only-
couldn't share that knowledge, and within 3 months, I think it was like 3 months of the conquistadors capturing Montezuma, they had already heard back in Spain, and it took. I mean, they never found out in North America about They knew something happened because trade changed from a distance. You're gonna notice. Oh, I'm getting nicer things. I can trade for an iron axe. You know what I mean? So like, there's things that they could trade for and things like that, but they didn't know, and it was a smaller distance between. I mean, Lake. I think Texcoco was the name of it from Madrid.
Yeah, there's Texaco. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
it's
they
all
literally built-
civilization.
yeah.
I mean, if you play the game,
Yeah,
too, like the names of
Tenochtitlan.
yeah, that's literally what I was about to
Yeah,
say.
and
It's that and the other one that you just said, and they're all Montezuma cities from the Aztecs.
What was what point of recruit?
Oh, we're really
I think-
definitely strayed away from. I really kind of want to get back to what they were talking about the hierarchy.
hierarchies.
Yeah, the hierarchical structure.
I think we were talking
America.
more about the foundation. We were talking more about like the foundations of how those hierarchies may have happened. So with the North American,
It's really more so is our hierarchy is good for society.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The hierarchical structure.
let's,
yeah, the
let's
hierarchical
hyper
structure of
focus on
America.
let's hyper focus on that. Our hierarchy's good. My answer will always be yes, because it brings a structure to society. I'm not advocating specifically at this point for any kind of hierarchy. Hierarchy. I'm just saying hierarchy as a concept is a good one.
Isn't that what Andrew Tate be saying?
Oh boy.
Like he'd be pro hierarchy as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Hierarchy just
I
means
think
that
pro
you think that some
pro
people should be
hierarchy
below you.
anybody on the political spectrum could be pro hierarchy, except
Right.
for maybe someone who's like super far left,
Right.
or an anarchist, which they're not even on the political spectrum.
They're just they hate them.
I
They
just don't
did-
like. I feel like with the term hierarchy, it sounds like there's a level placement. It sounds like there's levels.
It's a level.
Yeah, there's
It's
always
like-
levels.
it's like
There's
class,
always
bro.
levels.
Yeah, it's a
I feel
class.
like the same
I said
way-
cast.
Oh, I say
Yeah,
class.
there's different groups, but there's no levels. I'd rather we all be on the same level. You know what I mean? Like I treat. the
See,
kid the same way
I
treat
would
the rest.
think in
Just
a
respect everybody.
I think in a perfect world maybe, but
No, man, you're talking about you don't like actually live and change the world you're living in right now. You can make. You don't have. To,
I know,
like,
but
rely on
I'm
these
saying
powerful
I would
structures.
there's
And
there's no way that humans would ever go to just everyone being kumbaya.
I don't.
and
You're saying I'm
on
not.
a- on a
I'm
single
not. I'm
level.
not saying that everyone is
Yeah.
always. Well, humans have always warred. You know this. War's been going on
That's-
forever. But
it's-
there are civilizations in history that have attempted to have like a equal like footing among all people. So like the hierarchy structures is more like an equitable playing field. And you can't tell me that's not
I
like.
was gonna
I
say
mean,
that's
but-
why Babylon was so powerful.
But so powerful that what? They're gone. Their civilization's gone.
There's a lot of civilizations over there.
But
Yeah,
that's what
bro.
I'm saying. You can't name one that's lasted that has lasted the test of time. But I could point to
And none of
multiple.
them will.
But right, because you can't have a society with zero hierarchy, especially in a time of imagine a time of war where everyone has the same amount of strength.
No one's saying like absolute zero hierarchy.
But that's the thing. You have to have some at a
Like,
concept.
but
You
there-
have to.
Like a structure, yes, you have to have like a structure
Yeah, and a
of doing
hierarchy
things.
is
But
just-
like there has to be like there needs to be like an equitable playing field for people structurally
I
in
think
society.
we should try and level it out as much as possible. I mean,
that's why-
I'm also a fan of the tax where if you make over $250,000, every dollar after that is 90%.
I'm okay with that.
So I'm all for building wealth and stuff, but in a country that restricts the building of wealth, that's why Europeans who start businesses over in Europe they move over here and do it because they can make more money. They're not going to get taxed at an incredibly crazy rate because Americans are not taxed at. I mean, we are taxed at a very small amount.
Well, I know, mostly, yeah, but my point is like the hierarchies that I'm saying over the period of human history. Hierarchical structures have been justified for absolutely
you're
atrocious
right.
things.
They're doing bad things.
And like I just cannot get down with the society and where like those hierarchies are upheld like over time. I said that's why some beliefs are fucking like taught through generations because some people recognize that they're on the other end of the hierarchy and they like to keep this hierarchical structure brought down.
Yeah, I mean, and there's always going to be people who want a hierarchy torn down, but the point of if it's a good hierarchy, it'll stay.
But
it'll
like
stick around.
define a good hierarchy.
A representative democracy is a good hierarchy, in my point.
But that's like more of like a government style though.
Yeah, that's the only hierarchies that are prevalent. I mean, besides a workplace hierarchy, but I don't mind having a boss. You know, I don't mind someone telling me, "Hey, can you do this real quick?" or "Hey, can you help me do this?" You know what I mean? And I don't mind that he makes a little bit more money doing it. So, my one hierarchy that the two hierarchies you deal with are
like that person that is that overseer and that does make a little bit more money also has an effect on your life.
yeah,
He
100%.
can fire you, like he can
Yeah,
kick you out.
especially we live in a at-will state. They can fire you literally for just like smelling bad one day.
I think that's just like fair.
Yeah, the at-will firing. I do think that
Are
we should
there-
maybe take a second look at
There's
that.
probably unions that they can.
Bro,
Yeah, the
Union
union
busting-
jobs are different.
I mean, yeah, but union like rates only went up recently, bro. America does not have a strong unionship. Like
No, I know.
like-
I know it doesn't.
Starbucks is really trying to suppress the hell out of
I
theirs.
know, bro. Almost every major
Amazon
sells
is.
Amazon too. So think about
Yeah.
that, bro. That's like what if people?
That's a hierarchy that's oppressive, and I don't support oppressive hierarchies. I support good hierarchies. Like, but do you see what I mean? As soon as a hierarchy turns oppressive, I'll be there. Let's tear this shit down and let's build something new. But when you have something that's good for a majority of people, I think you keep it around. I think you keep it around. You have to make adjustments. I'm not saying you are stagnant in that hierarchy.
That's exact line of thinking is what kept slavery in like places in this country for like that long.
I'm sure that was an argument that they had, but there was also a huge eugenics and religious component to it as well.
Okay, but the
played
people that are on like that eugenics spectrum or on that like that eugenics side or that side of religion that are saying like God has ordained us to keep these Negroes in bondage, like they're on the right side of the hierarchy.
Well, right. They're benefiting from the hierarchy in some way, but I think it was. I think it was around only 9%, and that may be overstating it. Only 9% of Americans at one point had owned slaves.
I'm not but my point is.
So it was a very small hierarchy and a very.
But the slave ownership was so prevalent that these people can legislate things through Congress. That's my point. They had
100%.
they had enough power and enough money to get what they wanted, their will influence through the halls of the government.
Well, yeah, because they were the aristocrats
for hundreds of years. Even though that's 9% owned slaves, we gotta think like they kept not only black people down, other poor white people were kept uneducated too. So they are at the end of the other hierarchy too. So
Yeah. 100%, and I agree with that.
Good
Hierarchy should have changed. And I'm
Okay.
there.
So he's saying
Okay,
as soon
I
as
get-
it becomes a bad hierarchy, he's
As soon as it's a bad hierarchy.
but not everybody might not be as resilient or willing as you. Some
Right.
people might
Right,
be
no,
like,
and it's
what
also
the
really
fuck-
subjective.
It's gotta be.
It's
It's gotta
really-
be the.
Some
it's
people
gotta
might not be
it's
as
gotta
good hard as you,
it's gotta be
Kaden,
the-
bro.
It's gotta be the It's gotta be. It's gotta be willed by the masses.
Okay,
Okay,
but
but
what
it's
if- but what
extremely
if it-
subjective for like the
It's-
people who are sitting in high seats of power, though. Like for like when this hierarchy becomes bad, you know.
Yeah. No.
And then for the everyday
So
citizen
I
like
think
us,
as soon as civil liberties are being completely stripped for, I mean, and I do think there are reasons at some times for civil liberties to be stripped. Like I think
Like
during
what?
wartime, it is important for the main message that people are getting is from their own government. I think that's important, but you can easily see how that
So
would
what's
benefit like
civil
a
liberties?
person like Putin. You know what I mean?
Civil
So,
liberties would you
so as soon as you like the right to
Yes.
assembly,
You're
the right to
but
assembly.
But you're saying like the Constitution should be like suspended when wartime. So people should just get their rights just because.
I mean,
Fuck it.
if it
Fuck it,
if it's
nigga.
a real crisis of national, like true national security, and you have to let people be able, and reporters need to do their jobs and do their just dues. You know what I mean?
So they should just be locked up for reporting. Like that's
No,
like
no, no,
that's
no.
a suspension of the First Amendment.
They have. I would never support the suspension of the First Amendment, but,
that-
I would
that's
I would
something they
support.
have
I would-
done
I would-
in wartime.
But I would suppress the
press.
reach of it for sure. Like
Yes.
especially in nowadays, like back then they didn't have to publish some pro Russia stuff. Like you know what I mean? Like
what do you mean?
like what I'm saying is like they didn't have to. The publisher didn't have to do it.
who was,
and-
what are you talking about? Like an American journalist or a
Yeah,
Russian
like an American journalist.
didn't have to publish what?
Like if they wanted back in the day to publish pro Russia stuff in their local newspaper, I think that easily the government could have a say in saying no.
Yeah, they was like, no, fuck that, you
Right.
can't do that.
Well, 100%, and that's the type of suppression that I would.
Or
see.
if they
It's like-
did, they was like they got blackballed from fucking society and they
Well-
called it communists. Like
well,
that's
right.
like that's
it was a Soviet. I was gonna say that's the
And I
Soviet
think
Red
that,
Scare all over
and I
there.
think, and I mean that was a huge.
and we weren't even at wartime at that point.
Right, that was like a
We
what
weren't at
15-year
war, though.
period
We were
where we were
doing
dealing with
every.
that.
We were doing.
Was that 15
we weren't
years?
we weren't at war with Russia. We were.
No, I know, but I'm saying like is that like a 15
was
year?
more
Yeah,
than
we're
15
we're,
years
we're,
ago.
we're
That's
fighting
going on right
proxy
now.
wars with Russia the whole way. We were fighting the war. We just weren't willing to use
Nuclear weapons.
just
Military
like a
force.
full mobilization.
Yeah.
Because if we did that, then Russia would have
been a
sent
nuclear
all
war.
their right. Exactly. So
But right now though, like that, and
But that's
now
what you're
we
facing,
can-
damn
we
near.
can, well, we can use that same like line of thought to go into Ukraine.
I was
war.
gonna
Like,
say that's damn near
Yeah.
what we're facing right now.
No,
I think
100%.
I
I mean-
think that like
that's what. So the Ukrainian government they suspended a bunch of pro Russian parties in their government. They suspended them. They stopped them from assembling with them. So it's
Yeah.
like so. That's something that I would totally support. And then they also took the steps to kind of blot out external media except from the West. I mean,
with
I'm
this,
from
like,
the West.
but like what?
So,
Like, well, what are the people from? I mean, like, keep going.
but like, so that's when I support when the government has an objective of sovereignty, literally keeping their sovereignty. I think that it's just due for
So,
them to suppress
Like, so
anti-government and anti.
So I mean, like, this is the
it can
thing.
turn bad 100%.
That's what I'm trying
But
to get
in,
you
in,
to.
in
I mean,
America's
like,
but in America's case, they did it.
bro.
and
not
then- and then
everybody
now-
is
and now-
Amer- what about?
I know, but we are in America, so it's like,
Okay,
and
but
I
point-
think we
my
should
point
be.
is this: you're saying that it's okay for the government to just like suppress voices and what they deem is for a national security or for their sovereignty. What is for
when it's
people?
completely obvious, yes, I think so.
But what's okay? So my
Like the Ukrainian situation is a no-brainer. You're getting invaded. Just turn on any news from any place in the world. You're
okay,
getting
but
invaded.
my point is people have used that argument to do some awful things.
100%. And people will continue to use good arguments to do bad things.
So we should try to like fight those.
Yeah, I
ideas,
agree.
right?
I agree. You got it. Not the
Like
core
the
idea.
thought of it.
Person that's
I was gonna say you gotta fight the person, not the idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that person has a history of bigotry, derogatory stances towards,
Alex
Any
Jones per
group.
se.
yeah, I think Alex Jones is just entertainment. That's
I think
what
so
it,
too. But I think
but
he took it
most of
way too far. He's fucked up.
yeah,
bro.
I mean, with the Sandy Hook thing, he's
That's
gonna
what
have
I'm
to, he's
saying.
gonna have to
That
pay him
shit's-
out.
Nigga,
And our system
rightfully
did it
so.
just do right. Exactly.
Rightfully
That's
so.
an example of
but
our
that's
system
why I gave it
doing
a
it
perfect
well.
example of somebody where you're like, yeah, nigga, like you got to get rid. It's not ideal, nigga. Like you don't get rid of the ideal because nobody's trying to catch on with this ideal that you're pushing.
100%.
You got to get rid of the person, and by doing that, making him pay out this, you're basically cutting off his funds and his access to doing all of this what he's been doing. Because I mean, what is it like? It's like several million that he's done.
It's
like
here, I'll
30
go
I think
get
it's
the
like 30
exact. I'll get the exact dollar amount.
I was gonna say it's like I really want to
but
say
it's
like
it's a
30 million.
lot. It's a lot of money.
And I'm like, nigga, that's not. I mean, he's gonna be in the same thing that Amber Heard's facing right now. He's probably gonna have to appeal that shit because I don't know if he has that on that residual genuinely. That's a lot of.
Yeah, 49.3 million.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's absurd.
But I definitely think that Alex Jones, rightfully so, pays out those families $50 million. Dang it! I mean, can't put a dollar tag.
But like we were just stating before, it's about the not killing the ideal. It's about like, you know,
going after the
getting
person.
get
Right.
him out of there. And so
Yeah.
I'm glad that
So-
that's a perfect example. of
So
what
I
should
think
be.
hierarchies, to wrap up, I think hierarchies are good. Oppressive hierarchies and hierarchies that do evil things and benefit a very, very small elite of people should be, I mean, it's outmoded. It's out-fashioned. It's old-fashioned. I mean, what people want is representative democracy. I'm talking about people in the West. That's what we want. And, I mean, it just gets propped up by a bunch of bureaucrats, and that's one part of hierarchy I'll concede to you. Get rid of the bureaucrats.
Yeah, I'm weak. But you know, on to you know,
More pressing
yeah,
news,
more pressing news,
more,
you know.
more close to home.
yeah, I was gonna
with
say stuff that has to do with our country.
the
you know.
Hurricane Ian. It did get. I think it got like downgraded for a second, for not like taken down from hurricane status. Then it got put back up, and that.
What is that? Tropical storm? Is it? Was
'Cause I
tropical
think-
storm like number what? It's not even a category hurricane technically.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That's
exactly.
crazy because then they shot up to category 4.
Well, it did. I know it hung over Puerto Rico for like almost like 48 hours.
They were like
type.
almost underwater.
Well, yeah. In some places there was like, I mean, 20 inches.
I was
of
gonna say I
standing
heard it was
rain,
22
just-
inches
that's-
of standing rain. That's 2 feet.
Yeah, you can't do
It's
that.
pouring in from the
And
window,
especially in
bro.
a place like I was in Puerto Rico last year. I mean, the infrastructure is good, but it's
Not
not
prepared for
great.
that.
It's not great.
It's not
No
prepared
no
for that.
place is prepared for something
Right.
like
I was
that.
gonna say, and
And
even
especially, I think they had just restored their power to the island, like not even 2 full years ago. After that first,
one.
yeah.
I mean,
So-
if you think about how it hit Fort Myers,
Oh my
somewhere
God.
where there's a cash cow
Yeah,
city,
if y'all
they're
haven't
getting
seen some of the
money.
footage, definitely check it out.
Yeah, that stuff.
Fort Myers, I think, was the hardest hit place on the mainland.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of places.
And then the island got disconnected.
Yeah,
with the,
there. I
hurricane.
heard about that happening in the Carolinas as well. Is some people getting cut off from the mainland?
That's
and stuff.
terrifying.
So, Carolinas also dealing with it. Biggest storm in the Carolinas in over 60 years.
That's crazy. We got a friend
Crazy.
Preston down there in Daytona Beach. He
Yeah.
said
So
that.
prayers out to him.
Right, in some areas he said that that there's like 2 feet, 3 feet of water. Like, when you're driving
Yeah,
through.
it's crazy. I had a buddy who lived down on the western coast, and he said he was gonna ride it out, and then he boarded up all of his stuff. I guess I haven't checked
he
on him,
alright?
but yeah,
I was
haven't
gonna
checked on
say,
him, but
People down
He
there on the
probably
West
lost power.
Coast. I was like,
That's
people
for
down there
sure.
on the West Coast. I heard that they were getting like people were driving next to sharks.
oh, I believe it. I 100% believe it. I mean, they're the destruction that comes with hurricanes. I mean, you could see like I don't even think New Orleans population is as big as it used to be.
No, it hasn't. It still hasn't
Nope.
returned.
It hasn't recovered.
I mean,
yet.
people
So-
understand the devastation that it leaves, and like the possibility of like where
especially
you're
a state like Florida,
where
it
you're like
depends- depends a lot on that infrastructure.
oh
I mean,
no,
to
yeah,
to bring the people in that who are going to be wanting to be tourists there and stuff, like
right.
all that infrastructure is gone. And I mean, Fort Myers is a popular spring break
That's what I was
destination.
gonna say. It's a cash cow city, like,
That's gone.
and that's why I was trying to get to the point where like I understand why Puerto Rico was
Yeah, I mean,
underwater
dude.
because like like you just said, like you can't prepare for a hurricane, honestly. And
You can try. You
I was
can
talking
do your best.
right. I was talking to Preston, and he was saying how the hurricanes, hurricanes can even create. Like, he was like, the greatest thing that in Indiana we can get is tornadoes. He was like, hurricanes.
And
can
they
create
don't.
tornadoes.
And people have been saying that Tornado Valley is starting to shift more south, like near the Ozark region. So it's like,
Fucked up.
so we're the Midwest is actually looking like a pretty killer spot, especially if you factor in climate change.
Right.
It's going to be one of the best places to be in the world. So
We're,
largest lake system in the world. So
we're somewhat of a big deal out here.
but I do think that Ron DeSantis has done a good job in responding. I mean, as good as a governor can do when your city just gets smacked. So he's, from the press conferences that I've seen, he's putting on a good face for everybody, which is
He's handling
important.
it well.
So, and Joe Biden came out, which I liked, and he said, Joe Brandon, he came out and said, let's put politics aside and let's try and figure this out. So
You got to. I mean, that's something where it's like, it's not necessarily like Katrina, like we're gonna say, like we need worldwide reach, but like.
well,
it's
right,
like-
because that was, I mean, especially when the levees failed.
I was
the
gonna say,
levees
FEMA,
failed.
FEMA literally was like,
Yeah, and I think a couple
Red Cross
people,
was like, hands out, like, we need donations.
Right.
From everybody. I remember we donated stuff from like my family, like, down to people.
and
in
also
Katrina
you
that was
gotta,
bad.
we do at some point as a civilization have to be like, well, let's just not rebuild there.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
bro.
At some point we got to be like, well, you know, it is hurricane prone.
I know it's video game talk, but when you be playing Civ and you be like, oh shit, damn, by 2050, fucking
Hurricane
Florida's-
happened there?
Miami's in water.
Well, right, and
Nigga, so
from
like,
projections.
what are you talking about with like New Orleans and stuff with like that?
Well-
Water levels are consistently rising.
Well, right, and that's the thing is, you not even in video, in real life, when you look at the projections, you see Florida just get swallowed because it's all.
It's
all-
below sea. I mean, below.
I don't
like,
think it's
not
all below
It's
it,
like
but-
right above. It's
Right.
barely.
Exactly,
It's right.
barely.
It's below what you would expect for
It-
when you would build giant cities on there. I mean, you got Miami on the fucking tip of Florida.
right on a place that.
New Orleans
Oh,
on the tip.
Yeah, and
I mean,
since
that's where that was back in the day. You guys.
Well,
I know, because you want to be right there on the point,
Yeah, it
which
may-
it makes sense.
it-
But now, when we're fucking up our world with like climate change,
But the thing is like New Orleans is still one of the biggest ports that we have. So it's
yeah,
like,
and that's terrifying because
so
like,
it's gonna get hit again, and we'll see what happens. But
Right,
and
and
that
so-
also affected Texas too.
yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's a learning thing, and you would think that we
Houston's
would
right.
learn.
Yeah, Houston is literally right on the Gulf. So
Yeah.
it's like that's.
No, they got smacked. What was that last year?
or I think it was like 2 or 3. Yeah,
They got smacked by a hurricane
Yeah, they did.
recently. So that's what I mean. Like it's
We
all
just
those
as a
areas.
society at some point should be like, let's just build a little bit inland.
right. I was gonna say somebody take
Like-
like Wyoming and just boom.
Right? I'm,
city.
dude,
Man, I was
nobody,
gonna say boom.
nobody lives out there.
Nobody.
Nobody lives. it's
Idaho,
like
Wyoming,
100,000.
Nebraska, like you just said. Boom.
I don't even think Wyoming has a population of 1 million. Like,
It's probably smaller than the
It's
metropolitan
very-
Indianapolis.
it
like,
definitely
area.
is. It is. 100%.
That's insane.
100%.
And that's a lot of land. I mean, Wyoming's like probably like 2 Wyomings together would probably be as big as like what, like all of
I think they said that
No,
the
bro,
UK.
that's not fucking true, bro.
England. The
England
UK
has way more people than.
No.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
saying
like 60
size wise.
million.
No, I'm saying size wise. Like England's not that big. Like when you put.
I
it
think
on-
it's like
on-
about
when
the
you put it- when
size
you
of
place
like
it on a-
Utah. Or yeah, I think it's about the size.
England.
Yeah.
That's what I was
it's like
saying.
the size
2
of-
Wyomings would be giant. Would like it would be way bigger.
Oh, yeah.
than
It's either like
big.
Utah.
Like if you
or
like you know how like the
It's like I know what you mean. It's like from like I think it's from like Indiana to Georgia.
yeah, it's like a little bit. It's like Indiana, Illinois, and the Kentucky and Tennessee together.
Because like
Is like how big
from
UK
like the
is.
top to the bottom of England is like 9 hours.
Yeah.
Really?
Or
Yeah.
from Scotland to
No way, because
The
they.
dri-
No,
driving-
there's no way because they always talk about how we don't know we know distance, but we don't know time because it takes hours just to get from one side of the country to the other. I'll look it up. Actually, I think Steven.
from England. England to
Like I'm saying, if you put 2 Wyomings together, it would be bigger than the UK.
Yeah, it's like
It's
8 hours.
it's like from Arkansas up to Nebraska, but that's no 8 hours.
That's smaller than that.
What do
If
you think
anything,
it is?
that's less than 8 hours.
We should look it up.
That's less than 8 hours. It can't be.
Tip, UK.
Alaska is equal to 7 UKs. Texas is equal to 2.86 UKs.
Yeah, I mean,
Colorado
like,
is equal to
time.
1.1 UKs. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Time wise, you're like, I don't want size. I want like
No, I'm just talking about
oh,
size.
time? I mean,
like, in the
bro,
end.
they
I'm
still
talking
have.
about size. Like I knew when you said when you
It's
thought I was talking
definitely-
about population, that was not what I was
Yeah,
talking
not
about. Not at all.
population,
UK because I'm like London's massive.
Massive.
Like so, I
I,
understand. what
I
you mean
think
by
the population
wise.
of the UK is like something like 60 million, like something.
You said 60.
Yeah, like
yeah,
60.
which is insane when you think about how many people are in such a small area. But
right,
I mean,
and especially it's all like most of it's concentrated in England,
What
so
would
it's
you
like
equate it to when you equate it to? See, Wyoming is bigger than UK. Already, you don't have to double it like in just landmass size. It already is.
yeah,
just
it's
bigger.
about the same size. Okay, Michigan, that's a good
That's
example.
what I'm saying. Michigan's bigger too.
Crazy.
But
It's definitely not. I think Florida's.
what's
smaller.
Japan? What's Japan like? That's what I was gonna
Japan's
say.
huge. Japan's
Is
definitely
Japan
than
bigger than UK?
it's like California damn near.
Yeah, it's
Really?
yeah, it's long. It's long for
Good
sure.
God. And population-wise, would it be greater than the UK?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Japan,
it's
bro.
Japan, bro. They have probably like 100
Tokyo,
million
nigga?
people.
Well, you got several
Tokyo-
different countries in
well,
UK, and then you got
Yeah,
fucking,
countries.
Yeah, but
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Either way, I mean, it's just one country compared to several. I mean, that's all it was.
Yeah, I mean, Tokyo's population is like somewhere in the high 30
100.
millions.
I thought.
I thought no, it's not. No, it's not 100. It's barely.
Is
No,
there
it's
100
not
million
30s.
cities?
It's not 30s because Tokyo's smaller than New York. New York's.
No, bro, you're
That's not
tripping.
true.
Tokyo's
Yeah,
the biggest city in the
yeah.
world. New York is
I thought
tiny.
Rio was the biggest city in the
No,
world.
New York
No,
is tiny
bro.
compared to other cities. Like, go to Bangladesh.
It might be Shenzhen damn near, or like New Delhi, or in India.
Yeah, I mean, I
Largest cities in the world by population.
Is it?
2022.
It's Tokyo.
Then
Yeah.
Delhi, and then Shanghai, Sao Paulo.
there's like no American
Sao Paulo,
cities.
Mexico City,
Yeah.
Cairo. Does that mean New York just got smaller? Because New York at one point was 20 million.
No.
No, it wasn't, bro. It's always been like around 8.
Yeah, it's been around 8. You can't put much people more in that sardine can.
Exactly, bro.
Yeah, I mean, look at the population of it. But speaking of New York, they just recently got a big old shipment of migrants from GOP states, and they've been reporting.
What does it say?
They've been reporting that.
Metropolitan population in New York City in 2022 is 18 million. So that's what I'm saying. I thought it was around 20.
Okay. You're right. So population of New York City is around 18 million.
Yeah,
all the
that's-
boroughs.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
clarify.
and I mean, yeah, and then there's a lot of fucking immigrants there too, probably.
Well,
so.
speaking of immigrants,
I've been trying to transition.
The GOP sent a bunch to sanctuary cities. I mean, they sent them to Martha's Vineyard, which is where Obama.
Yeah, I was
has
gonna say
a house
that's
at.
where
That's a
fucking. That's,
sanctuary.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, let me send you to a fucking luxury.
That's
Literally.
one
one of the nicest
Can you
sanctuaries.
imagine?
Before we talk
apartment in Martha's
before we
Vineyard?
talk about this, those migrants or immigrants, asylum seekers, what they should be called, had protected status because they were Venezuelan. So I don't know why we
Yeah.
should just like
I know. Shit, they sent them straight to sanctuary cities.
it's like so that's you think that's just like okay
Yeah.
why
Because if a city up north, where, I mean, the main problem of immigrants is not from Canada, it's from Mexico and Latin America.
okay
And the states that are going to be affected most by that illegal immigration are going to be southern states.
these are asylum seekers though this is not illegal you're thinking this is nowhere
Yeah, no,
this is-
I'm
this is- these
no,
people have
I'm
a
agreeing.
right to
I'm
be
talking.
there
I'll
by
specifically
law.
say
So why-
asylum seekers.
so why you said what
I will specifically say so these asylum seekers came to southern states, which are bombarded by the border issue crisis right now.
But my point is they're protected in the law, whether bombarded or not.
Right.
These
And
people-
what
these
did
people
they
are
what did they
these
do?
people
What
are
did they do
protected
that
in
They're
was
the
not
law.
aliens, right? And then
Well,
so
right.
the word aliens,
Well, right.
fucking
Yeah,
is
100
that like
100%.
the
I'm not
meaning at this point in
questioning their
time for
legal
those,
status. I'm not questioning their legal status.
So why treat them as like a political tool when they're like?
Well, I
when
think it's
they're-
more because it's supposed to be like a hey, wake up. This is our reality right now. This is what we've been screaming about for years, and this is the quickest way I've seen
So
people.
first of all, I've not seen one Democrat advocate for an open border. None, and nor has there ever been an open border. Kamala Harris is not, as even said, please don't come. And so like,
Right.
so let's get that's a talking point. I just want to get that out of the way.
What's up? Yeah, I mean, you're trying to say that sanctuary cities don't increase the travel across our border when we incentivize
I'm trying
people
to
to
say,
come.
but do you know the situation how those migrants even got across the border? There's people that went down there, said that we're going to give you a fast track job, housing, and a citizenship. They went on the buses, got them through Texas, sent them through Florida, and then bust them up to Martha's Vineyard. Like, look at the reporting that's around this story. This is manufactured. Why tell people if you come over to me, come to me, I'll get you some fucking housing, I'll get you some clothing.
Is that not
Your
what
poor ass-
Democrats have been asking for? Is to provide clothing and housing and jobs
So my
for?
point is, this is good, but
Right.
don't use them as a fucking political tool.
Well, I think that
Like,
Democrats
why-
don't.
you're, like,
I think
shifting-
Democrats are
shifting them
very.
of their humanity.
I think Democrats are
these are-
very
these are
hypocritical
people.
in those
But
arguments
how,
because
though?
they
Because-
because they're not the people who are offering to shelter them in their homes. I mean, if you want them,
So what are you? So what's
I
the-
want an immigration system like the rest
so
of
some,
the world.
So some reform. So what happened when immigration reform was voted on in like Congress? Why?
What? It's a Democrat-led Congress. What?
So what?
What
so,
do you want?
So legislation shouldn't be put through just because?
Yeah, I don't think that
because-
the Democrats are willing to play ball with Republicans just as much as
Bro,
Republicans aren't willing to play ball with Democrats.
So nothing should be done then.
Well,
With that
nothing will
logic-
get done because we're in gridlock.
Okay, but my point is, like other times in our country.
Yeah, I
history-
think okay. If
So-
I was
so-
to
so-
take steps, if I was to say okay, let's get some reform, I would immediately cut back on the amount that we're letting in, 100%,
Okay, so-
because we're letting in more than any place in the world, and for why? Because we want to provide cheap labor to big old CEOs, and that's what these migrants are coming to do. They're coming to do all the shitty work that Americans don't want to do.
I agree.
And aren't
I agree on that
willing
point.
enough to do.
Migrants
So
are-
we're selling a raw deal from both ends. To say otherwise,
Okay, so reform. So what do you want to do with?
I-
but my point is this.
my-
Why are these migrants even coming to the U.S. in the first place? It's because these countries have been
Yeah,
stripped
they're just-
of-
yeah.
these are warland countries. Like you
Yeah,
gotta
they're
understand.
terribly
you gotta
run.
understand what these people are fleeing
definitely
they're
from.
terribly
also
run.
anarchy
They're
typically.
they're super.
That's
they're
like,
super
but you're
corrupt.
not. But like you're taking
Super
away these
corrupt.
people's humanity. You're just like this is.
Well, I
just
think
a
if you talk
problem.
about politics, if you
and
fo-
let's not remove the U.S.'s role and why those countries are fucked up in the first place.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Let's not
Banana Republics are a
start
thing.
about the
Banana Republics are a thing.
But like
That's one of the things that we did down there is Banana Republic.
we've had my point is we've had hegemony over that part of the world for a long time.
Well, right. You're the
So-
world power, and they're in
Okay,
your sphere of
but you're
influence.
just saying this like this is that is affecting these people's lives and the fact they have to flee their own countries to come here in the first place. So like
Yeah, no, it's
so like that's
I would stay
stay where.
in the
this
country I was
he's
born
staying.
in.
He's staying in.
He
He's,
was
he's going to be a
staying there.
nationalist, is what he's saying.
Yeah,
You
I
would
would
stay
100% stay in the country I was born in. I think if I was born anywhere, I would love the country I was born in.
I don't think you know. I don't think you really mean that. If you were born in like
I mean,
to have some prosperity in a country that's
Well,
like
to- yeah, you have to-
134
you have to-
times
you have-
richer than
you
yours.
have to work. You have to work for the
Bro.
prosperity. Like, and that means through political reform. I'm not talking about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. I'm talking about political reform. These people in these countries need to stay. Say we want that here.
Until
He's saying
we want that here.
Until the U.S. hegemony does not affect these countries.
That's
in a
never
way
gonna
that-
happen. If
So
you're
then-
asking,
so
if
if
you're
that's
a-
never
if
gonna
you're-
happen, if
you're
they're
asking-
never gonna
if
have
you're
prosperity
asking
in their
for a
countries,
sphere of influence from a country to shrink, it has to happen naturally.
bro. So my
By
point
you
is,
getting greater.
there-
I mean, there's
these-
literally a couple
these-
countries down there that use our dollar as theirs.
So these countries are not going to be able to like develop in the way they
No,
need
they
to.
need to.
They're not going to be able to develop in the way they need to without or with a constant influence through American policy.
Why
That's
is
not gonna happen.
Mexico the richest country in Latin America?
Why is Mexico the richest country in Latin America?
Probably
Probably because
because
directed.
corrupt and they
No.
There's more than one corrupt government, Stephen. Probably because like very very close like business ties to the U.S.
Exactly.
But, like,
the U.S. brings prosperity to most people who are ready to accept
You're
it.
saying that they're the richest country in Latin America? Let's not forget that most of their civilians flee over the border to live here.
I know, because
but
it's that
so,
much better.
So who is the people that are rich? Who is that richest going to, bro? You're saying that as a statistic. That doesn't mean shit to me. They're the richest country in Latin America, but most of their people
Yeah.
are fucking poor.
I'm trying to point out to you that the country that has in Latin America that has the closest economic ties to us is the richest.
So that
If that's
okay,
not
so
a
that,
blatant.
so that,
If that's
so
not
that,
a
so
blatant.
that means that the country that's closest to us just means that their rich people can just get richer and richer and richer without having most of the effect on the rest
we
of
have
Latin
no
America.
say
That's
over
basically
political
the-
reform in Mexico as the U.S.
Yeah.
government.
That's
We have
a
none.
damn lie, bro. What? That's
Then they would be
literally-
cozier to us if we could
that's-
choose it.
that's
If we could
literally-
direct it, we would. If we
They
could
literally-
direct the
they
show, we
literally- They
would.
literally changed the. That's because they literally changed the law because before, like the shit that happened with Trump, like most of the migrants was like coming through Mexico and shit, and now they changed the government laws. They're trying to keep them like
Yeah,
like
it's the
they-
one country policy.
try
You
to
have to
keep-
go to the nearest, safest country, which
my point exactly. So you're like you're like
which is Mexico. If you're ranking it.
okay. Well, if you're trying to give me this like it's like the less shittiest and all the shittiest options.
We can't accept everybody within our borders. And if a large amount of people,
I'm not saying everybody.
but I'm saying if we wanted to accept everybody who wanted to come, I want to go to Australia, just live there for a couple years. That'd be great. You have to have a job that's vouching for you. You have to have your whole ass degree in that field, and it
Okay.
has to be in a field that's needed by the state. And then also, besides the point, I'll also have to go work in the fields. Not joking, for Australia, you go work in the fields for a couple months out of the year.
That's what you have to do.
Bro, I'm telling you. So it's like
That's to live there.
speaking
there's
Australia.
there's
Speaking
visa
on
options.
Australia.
There's visa options, and one of the most popular visa options for foreigners to move there for an extended period of time, you have to work in agriculture. So it's like, if we just had a system like everybody else where it's hard as hell to get in, period, regardless, hell yeah, I'd be like, sure, maybe asylum would probably be a good thing that we are offering to anybody across the world. But we're letting in the most illegal immigrants. We're letting in, we're right, and we're letting in the most migrants, like just legal migrants, and then asylum seekers. Europe's taking a huge brunt of that, 100%, and I'll give them props to that. But you can see what's happening in Europe with the whole migrant situation. You can see what's happening.
Dude,
What's popping up in Europe for the first time?
I can't what
Alt right, far right.
for the first time in Europe.
For the first time in a long time.
Bro, there has been I don't even know if you can even say that, but like, the European example. That's another thing. Like, what has been Europe's role and why these migrants are coming to their country in the first place?
I think they're coming because it's a rich land.
Okay, but like you're not like the context in your argument is always like stripped out. Because like
What do you
Europe
mean?
Europe has had like hundreds of years of extracting resources from these people, like these like lands where these people
Okay.
are fleeing from. What do you mean, like okay?
Yeah, that was the way of life, man.
Okay,
I don't know how to tell you otherwise.
My point
that
is,
was how
my
the world
point-
was.
my
And you
point-
can't.
my point
you
is
can't
this.
cry
My
about how
point-
the world
my
was.
point is this, bro. My point is this. If these people's lives are over generations are consistently not getting better, and there's only one place in like the nearest span of distance to you that you can actually have a comfortable life, where you don't have to live in fucking absolute squalor and poverty.
You don't
Why
have to
the
live in
fuck-
absolute squalor and poverty in some of these nations.
Okay, some of these nations you really don't, but some of the nations are a war land. Some of the
100%.
nations,
That's
some of the
not-
nations
that
have
shouldn't be-
have
that shouldn't
some of the
be-
nations are constantly defaulting on their debt. Some of the nations
Yeah.
are like. But my point is like, so like,
I
what,
just
they
don't
fuck them?
see how influence 200 years ago is really affecting their economy now, because we have examples to point to of places that were economically developed that have become economically developed and were not colonial societies. The argument doesn't hold.
But I
Because-
feel like
because-
what are your examples?
Sweden and the Nordic countries. Name 10 colonies worldwide. They're the richest nations in Europe. So therefore, you're saying if the richest nations in Europe got all their wealth from extracting.
Sweden and Norway are the richest countries in Europe. They have that through resources. Like that's not.
What are places in the world
Like,
that
that's
have the
not-
most resources? Venezuela
that's
has
the-
some of the largest oil reserves in the world. The Middle East has
Sanctions. That's the context you're removing
Sanctions?
from the U.S. That's the context you're removing. You're removing that context. They've had economic problems
Bro,
through other nations like us.
Sanctions. We've learned recently that economic sanctions don't really be working like that.
That's definitely a fucking lie.
Well, I
Why
can
is
point to Russia.
why is North Korea so fucking poor?
Well, it's because they buddied up with poor nations for most of
Why
their recent history.
why is Iran? Why
Why
Iran
is
so
South Korea
poor?
rich?
Bro, because they don't have sanctions on them, bro.
But
They
that's
don't-
what I'm saying.
So
If they allied,
you're saying
if North Korea,
sanctions don't work,
if
though.
North-
Sanctions do work.
if the whole world places sanctions on you, which is the case for North Korea,
okay,
it is not the case for Venezuela.
but like the majority of the sanctions that were placed on Venezuela are from America. And if they're telling
And
the rest,
so are
and
the-
if they're telling the rest of the world, you can't fucking trade with
But people
Venezuela.
still deal with them.
Okay, but like,
China, the biggest economy in the world, like the second biggest economy in the world,
bro,
is a main trading partner with Venezuela.
That's recent though. That's not how shit has been for the past
who
like
has been
50
building
years,
more roads,
bro's
bridges?
That's all. That
But
shit.
I know, but
that shit
it
happened-
doesn't matter
it
who built a
started-
bridge 200 years ago.
Bro,
It matters who built a bridge
But
10 days ago.
That started in 2008. These are recent developments, bro.
It did not start in 2008 for China.
The Belt and Road Initiative. That shit.
But I'm talking about the economic development of China. They have right now built more roads, bridges, railroads
Okay.
than America has ever.
Okay.
Ever.
Okay.
So, if a nation like Venezuela is allied with the fastest growing and the second largest economy in the world, it's on the corruption in that society. It's not an I'm not going to say America's influence is nil.
That's
not saying that.
That's
but,
all I'm asking.
Yeah,
That's all.
but they're in our sphere. But they're in our sphere.
bro.
But they're in our sphere of influence.
So you're saying they should just be just fuck them because they're in our
No, not fuck them. If they buddied with us, they would be more prosperous.
Okay, so what is that? You're trying to say that
I'm talking
American
about
investment.
geopolitics. I'm trying to be realistic.
I'm being realistic too, bro.
And they
because,
need to- if they allied with us, we would
every
help them.
country does have a geopolitical influence.
Venezuela was one of the most popular vacation destinations through the 50s and 60s for the Americas.
Okay.
So, what happened?
Was there not
What happened?
a coup?
A coup. So
Caused by who?
But why would the Americans?
Caused
why-
by who?
I don't know exactly what coup happened in the 70s but it
was through
but
us,
why,
bro.
But why would the Americans why would the
earlier,
Americans purposely install a pro-communist regime?
They didn't, bro. They didn't.
Well,
they,
then how did
they,
so we propped up was it Hugo Chavez?
Hugo Chavez, was he Venezuelan? I thought he was Chilean.
I think he might. But I'm saying the nations that have allied, yeah. So Hugo Chavez, there's a video of him literally walking down the streets in downtown. I think it's Coimbra, is the capital, and he was walking through downtown and he's like, "Who owns that?" Pointing at a big old office building. He said, "It's private. That's ours now." Like, who owns this building? It's privately owned. That's the government's now. So it's like, I don't think an American government would purposely put a pro-communist in power.
They didn't like this.
I think they were
the same reason America didn't purposely put a pro-communist person in power. The same reason they did that, like they didn't want that.
So maybe they lost. Maybe I don't have the full context on a war.
You think when the CIA trained the Mujahideen?
I don't like the CIA or the FBI.
My point is, those are all apparatuses.
No, the Middle East is a complete continuation. Right. The Middle East is a better example of the continued policy of extracting resources that was.
But that's just like a recent example. And that extraction of resources that went on in that region is gonna affect it a lot. Like,
but they
also,
also, but they're still gonna have a lot of oil in the ground.
Okay, you're saying like they're okay.
And the petrodollar is shrinking as we speak.
Now the countries are getting less richer. Now the countries.
Well, they're getting less richer because we're moving to electric cars. The West is moving to electric cars.
But my point.
That's gonna mess up the whole Middle East for hundreds of years because there's nothing there besides.
You're not.
I'm just trying to look at the whole thing and not just point the blame at America.
I'm not but they have such.
That was a region.
We've literally agreed that the American government has done some fucked up shit.
100%.
The fucked up shit that they do have ramifications.
World powers have done fucked up
So
shit.
you're just
they're always going to continue doing fucked up shit.
So we should just let them just do fucked up shit.
No. We need to hold
just
them.
Because we can.
We need to hold them accountable when and where we can.
All right, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking.
I definitely don't think an unaccountable government is something that should be let on the loose, and especially a group like the CIA, which is almost persona non grata, fucking out there just doing whatever, you know. So it's like the black sites. Everyone's heard of those black sites all over the world. Like that's terrible. Like, and I'm 100% down with the bringing back of, or the returning of some of those powers that they have back to the people.
All I'm saying is people, the main geopolitical influence, the hegemonic powers, has the ability to write history, to write the current history for other places. Because you have to remember. We
do. We have the influence to change nations for sure.
And it's been like that for a long time. So that's
not an incredibly long time. America really wasn't super powerful like 100 years ago.
But America is just an example of a hegemonic power.
Right.
I mean, hegemonic powers have for a long time take resources from other places in like the world, and the extraction of resources and the political ramifications of those extraction of resources have had consequences for these places, these regions in time for a long time in history. Like that's just like the natural. You don't have.
Venezuela is not a good example of resources gone because it still has the fourth largest oil reserves in the world.
Not a good example. I'll give you that.
I think Venezuela. That's a semi-unique. I'll agree with you 100% on the Middle East, but that's also been a war-torn region for all of history.
Okay,
so
but like let's not remove the other influence that people have had in the region
to
make it war-torn.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to. That's all I'm saying, bro. It's
100%.
like these
the British have done a lot. The British have done a lot.
And the French, bro. But these geopolitical powers. So these geopolitical.
But I don't believe that they're still rich off of. I just don't. I can't. I would maybe have to see it broken down like in financial spreadsheets. But Britain was broke at the end of World War II. Like, they spent all their gold. They spent all of it.
They spent all their shit.
Yeah. Then, hey, I'm not British. I don't care if Britain's poor. But like the whole, they were poor. They lost all that extracted wealth and gave it to they for the Lend-Lease program. They sent it over from London to New York. So, and we may be riding off those coattails. I don't know how, but I would have to see it like broken down to really believe that the financials of modern Britain are benefiting off of past colonial gains.
I'm not saying all the modern,
but the infrastructure and stuff.
I'm not saying all the financial underpinnings of London is like that. But you have to admit the head start.
It gave them a head start.
It's a huge head
man,
start. It's a head start that's so big it can't be understated.
But then if we wanted to then do the head start thing, we could look back and be like, well, then why didn't the Middle East conquer everything? Or then why didn't the people on the Yellow River in China, why didn't they conquer everything? Because they were way more developed before Europe was.
You said what?
They didn't have the urge to go around the world.
No, everybody had the urge to conquer everybody for history.
Not everyone.
Not in the
Most.
way- not in the way
If they had the
Europeans-
resources to do it, they would.
Not in the way the Europeans did it.
Well, the Europeans definitely,
The Europeans
they
slaughtered like 50 million people.
yeah, the Chinese did that to themselves in the Communist Revolution. People kill, people die. The Europeans got. There's so many factors that go into why Europe was the one who ended up colonizing everybody. There's so many reasons that go into it. But
I think it is very nuanced, but also like the why is not the thing that I like to focus on. It's like what they did with
yeah,
their
they
colonization.
did terrible stuff.
Like,
and they had those.
and now like
I think that's why what they're saying is that like the people you're bringing up the people in the Yellow River in China.
But the Chinese did have the will to conquer people. But what always held China
shit,
back.
they got conquered, bro.
Well, right. What happened to China is what always was the thing that ended up biting China was disunity inside. Not an exterior threat until the British came and were like, smoke this shit. The Opium Wars.
Speaking of that, what do you think about? Well, I'll bring that up.
But I just think that there's a lot. You're 100% right. It's a very nuanced thing of why Europe was the one who, and let's not just say all of Europe, Western Europe. Like, why was Western Europe the one? Access to the sea. There's so many reasons why. The pace in which they developed copper and started blending tin with copper, making
That was like
bronze.
that was like a middle.
But there was a Middle Eastern thing, and that's the thing. The Middle East was so far ahead of Europe. Europe was a bunch of fucking savages and barbarians for so long.
He's saying why didn't the Middle East conquer them?
Well, then, right? Why didn't the Middle East conquer?
Probably because I saw something that
There's
said
just
that,
so many reasons.
But the thing that I saw that why Europe or why Ottoman couldn't be like a mainstay power is because they didn't have a colonization system like the Europeans did.
Well, and Portugal did get started early with the Canary Islands and then Grenada and then.
But all these European powers had like colonial systems that they have had.
Yeah, that came around in like the 1400s and stuff. Because that's when Portugal started doing it. UK was late. Spain was next after it because literally Portugal and Spain had a meeting and they're like, let's just
with the Pope, just let's just dissect this
right
shit.
here. That's good. You like
I
this
can
area?
get
I
the
like this.
Spain was like, I'll get the west, you can get the east.
Right.
Yeah.
They just split it off, and that is when you have that unchecked power where no one can check you because of how advanced the military doctrine of your nation is. Because they weren't fighting like how tribes were anymore, or because they could study Roman tactic, they could study Alexander's tactics in the middle. Like the British officers that colonized Africa, Asia, Pacific, Oceania, like they all had thousands of years of knowledge to draw from, of written literature, of just literature of the things that they found most important, which was mostly war.
I'm saying they didn't have literally Sun Tzu's Art of War, but they had like thousands of years of arts of war compared to somebody who had just like what's been passed down of knowledge, which I agree that is extremely highly advantageous. It's enough to separate the competition as it did, as you can see.
100%, and I think that gap was just it was an insurmountable one, especially with the type of people that were. That people were back then, which was might makes right. So, and that was the driving force of the British Empire is might makes right. And that has been a constant thing throughout all of history is might makes right. If I lose, it's because God wanted me to. Or if I win, it's because God wanted me to. Or we could go to the Chinese and look at the mandate of heaven, which is whoever's in power is in power because God wills it. And if
Isn't
they
that
will,
lost right now?
No. So
Or no, I'm thinking of the seal.
how it goes
I'm
is
thinking of the seal.
they lose the mandate.
It's whoever holds it in China, between China and Taiwan, you know, it's like the rightful heirs to the throne of like heaven, basically.
And I'm pretty sure Taiwan has it.
Yeah, well, it's lost. There's a bunch of there's if you were to own it, you would literally be like, I've seen a video on YouTube, like they're equated like China's would be willing to put up like
stupid
75%
money.
of like their like GDP, like
Because that would
Because
automatically
whoever has it-
automatically make Taiwan
theirs.
irrelevant.
Yeah, literally it'd be like you guys aren't even like.
But the mandate of
it's
heaven is definitely more of just like a verbal thing. It's like a verbal contract between the state and the people, where
Right.
the people, if there's someone who's wrongfully in power, they'll get taken out of power. God's got it, basically. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's how it's been in China for thousands of years. So the might makes right. It's just been around, and I'm not saying we as civilized people now know. No, it doesn't. 100%. Might doesn't make right in every instance. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But
They still do it.
right.
Right.
And nations will continue to do that for a long time. They will. 100%.
So I think that's a good point in time to transition, you know, back into some entertainment.
Yeah, 100%. A little lighter topics.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk on that point when you were talking about Australia. Speaking on them, Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
returning to the X-Men
Y'all see
series.
that thing where it was
That
like
movie?
he was talking to the paparazzi and he was outside and he was like Hugh, and he looked over, he smiled, and he said, "Hey, yeah, sunglasses over." He said, "Looking good, my man." He said, "Yeah, looking good, my man. What's up, bro?" He was like talking to the fucking paparazzi, and he was like, "Ah, I gotta show it to you."
Hugh Jackman is by far one of my favorite celebrities.
Yeah, bro,
agree.
he's great.
And
I agree.
And I'm pumped he's gonna be working with Ryan Reynolds, because Ryan Reynolds and
Reynolds is so
Deadpool,
fucking
the
funny,
Deadpool,
bro.
Deadpool was just, I mean,
Well, Hugh Jackman is just such a talent. He's like in
Oh, yeah,
everything.
he did
Like,
Broadway
He,
and
I'm
stuff.
saying he can do Broadway. He can sing, and he's a hell of an actor. And so, with that being said, like him being in Deadpool is gonna be funny because if you know
100%
Wolverine,
in for Deadpool.
same here. If you know the Wolverine character, like you know he's the attitude.
Well, that's what I think is gonna be
and So
perfect.
it's gonna be so fucking funny because Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool is
Because
comedy
remember in
with
the
series.
in that Wolverine origin story movie, it was literally
When he
called
was in
X Men
Mexico?
Over.
Yeah.
And
No,
Ryan
where
Reynolds
Will.i.am,
was in
yeah,
that.
Yeah, he was
playing
Yeah, he was
Deadpool.
playing
Where,
Deadpool.
what was it?
X-Men Origins
You
with
gotta-
Will.i.am,
Yeah,
Hugh Jackman,
100%.
Ryan
That was
Reynolds.
actually not a bad movie in my
I
opinion.
like
Was it
that
the
movie.
one that's like before or after?
It's when
It's the one where
it
they
has
turned-
Sabretooth. It shows the like whole process
Yeah.
of like when Wolverine was in the 1700s with his brother Sabretooth, and they didn't have like
And they
their
fought in every
clothes.
American
Yeah, they
war.
fought in, that was the hardest.
That's
I
so,
think.
bro. That
The
scene
intro,
where they're
the
like,
fighting
I need to
each
see that
war.
movie, bro.
bro, you need to.
Bro,
It's,
that's
it's
just-
probably
yeah,
one of my
come over
favorite
and watch
X Men
that shit.
movies.
Yeah,
low-key.
it's my top 3.
Like for sure, because the
Every war that they fought.
Yeah, they fought in every- you
They-
see
the
them go
American
through-
Revolution. They fought in the Civil War, and then they fight in the World Wars.
no, they were both on the Union.
Yeah.
But,
What?
Yeah, hell
Now,
yeah.
how they fight against each other?
well, no, they were buddies all
They
the way
were
until
best
nine.
friends
They're
until
friends?
they were best friends until now.
They're not fighting against each other.
No,
they're
they
fighting
were
with
friends.
each other.
They were
Sabretooth and
friends for
Wolverine
like
were best
hundreds
friends
of
their
years.
whole life, and
So why are they
years.
fighting against each other now?
Because
Nah, man.
fucking Sabretooth has a fucking it's Nam. Yeah.
It's numb. It's fucking numb. I'm not
fucking
joking,
numb.
bro. Watch the movie. It's
I'm
numb.
like, bro, I'm like that.
It's not.
I'm like they're fighting with each other. Wait, what? Like, what do you like? No.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
talking
the-
about some like this nigga is like as simple as this. Like Sabretooth's just bloodthirsty.
Dude,
man.
just fucking, just a
Bloodthirsty.
bloodthirsty
I mean,
guy.
I'll kill
He's
I'll kill
like, wait,
kids.
all this peacetime. What is it? What's going
Right.
on?
He's like, children, I'll kill them.
Literally.
Say less. Hire me. And Hugh Jackman's like, nigga, this isn't what we
Signed up
enlisted
for. Yeah.
Bro, I'm talking about they got what is that called when they're like you're like tied to a post and like they're
Yeah,
about to
the firing squad.
yeah firing
They did
squad.
the firing squad, and they were like, they
they're
literally
like they
chuckled
don't
about
die.
it.
Yeah, they just laugh. They're like he was like wake me up like when it's over.
And then that exposed them to the American government, and that's how they kind of
Yeah.
got like.
So-
mutant. Then that's when mutant technology and research starts.
So they were
right
always
there.
mutants.
Yep.
Yeah,
Ooh,
they-
yep.
That's why they lived through.
Wolverine
every
was just way
war.
weaker. He was just way weaker because
Wolverine was,
yeah, because he had just like bone claws.
and then Sabretooth had,
Had
like,
nails.
tigers.
No,
Yeah.
he just had his nails.
Yeah, he had his nails, but I mean that's 5-3, and Wolverines
they're
could be
weak as
broken.
fuck, I
Yeah,
know.
Wolverines could be broken
And that
because they're
shit
bones,
hurts.
and it hurts them to break. So that's why they chose him to give the to create as Weapon X, the original.
And
there
also
was no
because
pre-
he was the only one of the two that could take it
Yeah.
via the pain. Like,
Yeah.
you know how
That
he
was
could
his
take
advantage.
the pain. But Sabretooth was pissed. He was like, "Yo, I want that. I want that
and so
animated."
that whole movie is kind of based on like their hatred between each other.
Yep. And how it
After
develops.
that, yeah.
Good ass movie. Speaking of superhero
fine.
movies, we got Black Adam coming out. Well,
Yes.
2, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the second one.
It's
the
not-
first
it's-
one.
okay.
Yeah, it's
I'm
the first one.
I'm lucky. I saw the
But-
trailer for that shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as Caden was saying earlier, I am only going because it's The Rock.
Right, yeah.
That's
I
it.
don't fuck
That's
with
it.
DC. Like y'all been fucking movies up. The actors y'all pick, Ezra Miller,
yeah.
go to jail, nigga.
Yeah, Ezra, that bro. What's
He's
wrong
fucking-
with him?
He's
That's-
foul.
He's foul.
He's fucked
Foul.
up.
Yeah, he's really.
Yeah, I mean
fucked up.
they got one right. Jason Momoa, actually 2. They
Two.
got
No, they got
Jason
two.
Momoa and,
And
Henry
for
Cavill.
Aquaman,
Nah, they got like 3 or 4 right.
who else?
They got
Oh
Jason
yeah, Gal
Momoa.
Gadot's
I
hot
would say
too.
Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa.
Yeah, so they got
I'm
4
cool
right.
with Black Adam. So
Yeah. Well, you can't you cast Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
You're gonna have.
that's what I'm saying. So it's guaranteed.
good-
So you got
that's
3
it.
good ones
That's
right
it.
now. Ben Affleck, I think people have an issue with him being
I
Batman.
hated him as Batman. He was too
I just
sulky.
think he's an excellent
Actually,
actor.
he's not even as sulky as Patterson.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't like this whole like emo Batman who's like mad like depressed. He's just walking around like a fucking nerd. It's like, bro, what? Like,
the fucking music.
right? Well, and his Batmobile being a real car, I was like, so he must be having financial.
What I'm wondering is when they're gonna bring back the Green Lantern, man. I'm
Don't
shitty.
retire it.
Yeah.
No.
That movie was so bad.
Yeah, it was Ryan Reynolds. He always says it's his worst piece of work.
Yeah,
but,
and he said that people who have a bad movie will call him and be like, "Hey, man, what'd you do after Green?"
Yeah,
Lantern?"
yeah, he has
bro.
an interview talking about it's crazy. But I wonder, are they gonna retry it with a black actor as they
Yeah,
should the
they
first
should.
time?
They should have done it.
They should have done it. Jonathan Stewart.
See, and that's the perfect opportunity for them to do like the
Revamp.
race swapping of the characters.
Oh,
that
when
they
you have
do.
a horrible movie, yeah.
Well, and it's like
Well, that's why I was confused why they tried to fucking
well, it's because it came out in 2011.
Well, I was gonna cross over to Marvel and get at them for a little bit. Even though I'm a big Marvel fan, I don't understand why. Like, I know they're doing this like a multiversal theory, but like when you see like a black Dr. Xavier or Professor Xavier, you're like,
Who's Black Professor Xavier?
Professor
or not
X.
Black Professor X.
I was about to say, that'd be
not Black
what?
Professor X. When you see when they did the Doctor Strange multiverse movie, but and then they had like everybody switched. So Captain Marvel was like a black woman, and then I think the Black Panther was another black person, or was a black female. Like they just, I didn't like how they like switched it up like just for that movie that without any explanation
Right.
into why.
No,
they
I
did
feel
that.
you. But
And,
also
like,
the
it's just
multiverse.
help-
The multiverse is the ultimate cop out from good writing.
What I meant to say is, I said Black Professor.
like they were
X.
like, all right, what do we do? What do
I
we
said
do?
Black
Whatever.
Professor
It doesn't
X.
matter.
Literally, they made it so nothing matters. One of your favorite characters dies. Well, we
Well-
have another movie cooking where they get him out of the
Right.
multiverse.
Yeah,
So it's like,
pop them back in.
right. So when you lose all of the weight behind the decisions and the characters,
Right.
that's why this Phase 4 has been trashed.
I agree. And,
Like-
and when I said Black
She-Hulk.
Professor
Did you?
X,
I watched the first episode.
I
of
haven't
She-Hulk.
watched it, bro. I won't watch
She-Hulk?
it. It's a TV show. Bro.
I thought it was a movie.
Bro, it is. Some
You say you do?
Strong. it's
Yeah, I
just-
don't get what they're
it's
trying to do
some
with that either.
strong feminist stuff going on
Facts.
there, and they made
Like
the whole
what?
bitch.
Megan Thee Stallion's in
I
there.
thought She-Hulk was like always a woman though.
Well,
Yeah, but
100%.
she like
how
was
she's-
stronger than that nigga.
how
Like
she's,
the
like,
Hulk, like she
right.
was driving a car. The Hulk couldn't stop the car. I was like, nigga, this nigga literally was throwing down things that were like the size of buildings. Like,
Right.
I
the
gotta
first
see her
Avengers movie.
lore to see if she actually has.
But
her
what I was
strength
gonna
is.
say
We'll
is
see.
I-
I didn't read the comics of She-Hulk. I was only into the.
I
comics.
misspoke
Yeah.
on the Professor X thing, the Black Professor Xavier thing. Is actually in the upcoming movie. They were considering changing the character to being a Black Professor X, and
It's
then that like,
whatever.
that decision.
I
I'm
mean, at
like,
this point, they're
why are
just
you
gonna
trying to do
it.
that?
I think that the
There's
people,
years of comics written, and I'm a comic head, so I mean, like,
the dudes on the internet that are just gonna keep getting upset by it, like, I just want them to know it's never gonna change. They're gonna keep pushing it down your throat,
It's horrible.
and it's just how it is.
I mean, it is.
The execs are gonna do what the execs want to do, and they think that these race swaps help,
well, speaking of in Marvel,
even though numbers tend to say otherwise.
speaking of in Marvel, well, DC, I hope Black Adam is excellent. Let me say that.
I
But
think
then-
it will be.
But then segueing and speaking of Marvel, The Women King came out, and so I've heard
That's a
about these.
Marvel movie?
No. But I was
Based
gonna
off
say,
of, yeah.
the fighters from the Women King, the female African warriors, they were the ones in Wakanda from Marvel are based off of this. Off of these
Right.
fighters
So
from
like the
Marvel.
tribe that movie, The Woman King, is about,
Right.
those characters were influenced
Like you
by
know how
that.
Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, his right hand woman is a
But I do
female.
gotta say,
The
based
bald-
off of
yeah, that's them from the Women King, basically.
based off of a couple
Real life.
reviews, I've heard that the historical accuracy is garbage.
Yeah, I heard that it's not extremely historically accurate, but I also heard that it was a fantastic.
Yeah, I heard that it's a good movie. So, and I think I
And
actually
there are some historical accuracies, but it's just not the most accurate movie. Like,
no, I
where
mean
they
it.
do
It
have
kind
a
of
lot of facts that they could pull from. which is the
kinda-
crazy part.
it kind of like it's trying to say that they're fighting for like their freedom and stuff like that, and when it was like one of the largest slave trading tribes in West Africa, and all of its wealth was built off of trading slaves, and they just so happened to gloss over that pretty major fact in the movie, and they kind of like make the French, which, you know, it's a movie, you got to have clear bad guys and clear good, well, good movies typically, I think you can kind of blur those lines a little bit,
Right.
which they easily could have done something really like spectacular with that.
You can do that in the Batman movies and Christian Bale.
Yeah, I mean good movies is where you're cheering for the bad guy and the good guy, you know what I mean? So that's just movies though, I'm not talking about reality.
Right.
But in the movie they do make the French kind of like the soul baddies.
They are the baddies.
Well, yeah, I mean they were definitely bad for
If
sure.
there was no demand, then there wouldn't be a,
Well, right. If there was no main antagonist, or if there was sloppy antagonism, I could see that. I could see it going different ways. But I've heard that it's pretty good, so I may check it out once it goes to a streaming platform.
Right. I was gonna say when it's the streaming platform, I'll probably see that. I'll probably go see. I'll probably go see The Rock in theaters.
Oh yeah,
I'll go
that's
to
one.
Flicks. Go to
He's a
Flicks.
big screen
You
kind
need to
of
go.
guy.
Yeah, you need to go check out Flicks and go take your girl to Flicks and,
Yeah.
go see that.
Get you some
That'll-
beers while you're.
Yeah, they got it's a
watching.
brewery. It's a Flicks
Yeah, and
Brewhouse.
they make their own.
Yeah.
They have like
They're
their own
award-
unique ones that are really
award-winning
good.
brew-
I might actually have to go.
And the ranch.
Isn't it
the ranch
HPC?
is fire.
No,
Yeah,
it's in
no.
Carmel. It's right. It's easy access. It's right off of Keystone.
Yeah, Keystone and Carmel Drive.
Yeah, Keystone. Yeah, 116th really.
Sponsor us, Flicks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for real. No, because y'all been talking about
We
these.
really have been plugging the hell out of y'all. But on to our music standing. You know,
New Da Baby album.
did anybody take a listen?
No. I hate the baby. I hate the baby.
He's fucking. You liked it because you like.
No.
you like,
I think his music's good. I don't stand for
Bro, that dude
I don't
beats up his own
condone-
fans.
I was gonna say I don't condone-
Not even that. I'm just saying like you like real like poppy like music as it is.
Nah, this album's not poppy at all. Like this.
It's the
is, like-
baby, bro. I knew
It's
it was
the
gonna be
baby.
some-
Any
He talked
music
about.
release-
I think in the first bar, one of his
boom,
songs, he
boom,
talked about
boom,
Megan
boom.
Thee Stallion and how he hit it before the night before
He's so
tour.
cool. He's so cool.
Yeah, and also he's got away with shooting people twice.
Yes, bro.
That's fucking. I think he's got one more time, and then the
I
fourth
don't know. I
time.
think they might give him a ball in that one, and then be like, "All right, nigga, this fourth one right here." we're
Right.
respecting."
That's when we just gotta
Okay,
just
right.
assume.
Right. 'Cause they'll do what they did to Youngboy or some shit. Like,
Because
that
he
nigga house
shot that
arrest.
dude in Walmart, and then
In Utah.
Yeah, in the state where you don't want to be.
right.
Youngboy's been to Utah for how long? Like a year plus now.
I don't know how long he's gonna stay there. He's
Shit.
been in Utah for a little bit.
No, he's been in Utah for like it's been like
That's where
like
Post
16,
Malone
18 months.
stays.
That's what
That's where Post Malone stays. He lives
he just links up with them, but he's on house arrest, so he's like, Posty.
Right. Pull up.
Pull up, Posty.
Pull up.
But they don't have any songs there. That'd
Yeah,
look
probably.
good,
I'll only give the baby's album a listen in passing.
Yeah.
It won't be
Some
me
of
actively looking out for
You
it.
gotta
Just because
try.
he's kind of just a piece
Bro,
of shit
you
guy.
like the baby? Like actually like his shit?
though. His music's good.
He has a couple bangers.
I was gonna say his music's good,
But-
like I said, I don't condone what he does outside of that. But I mean, there's a lot of people who could act right outside of fucking
Bro,
and their
I'm
music's
not even
good.
talking about how this nigga acts, bro. His music is just not like that. His shit's just not like wet. No, bro. Boom, 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 boom. I'm not. Let's just give it a quick. I'm gonna.
No.
30-second listen.
Nah. I ain't getting no license.
Copyright strike.
They're gonna copyright it for 30
They
seconds.
don't get me.
I think it's
nigga.
like something like 15 is like what's cool.
Let's do 10.
But
Hell nah. I'm gonna listen to the intro beat and then be like, cut it.
Cut it. That's it. I don't know.
and Grammys.
I was gonna say, moving on
Speaking
to
of
somebody
somebody who's won a Grammy
yeah,
before.
Grammys, yeah. Speaking of somebody who's won a Grammys before,
They're introducing a bunch of new
categories.
I think it is songwriter of the year, much needed because ghostwriters get no credit.
But the thing is, with that being said, Beyonce is going to win that.
Drake's gonna have to hand all his back.
Beyonce's probably going to win that.
Damn.
Beyonce's probably going to win Songwriter of the Year. And did you see that one thing that happened earlier this year where this white lady was like, I've never seen she was on 10 plus songwriters on one song. And she was like, I've never seen that many songwriters on a song before. And I was like,
You should look more.
Yeah.
right. It's
Nigga,
a lot of songs,
my car had
everywhere.
it's called
55.
samples. It's called somebody just is barely on the beat or on the track. All the above. There's so many layers that go into music and songs. So I'm like, when I saw that tweet by her, the lady was in the music scene.
Industry.
Yeah, she's in the industry. I was like, how do you not know that? And I
Probably
was like,
she's
it's Beyonce too. I was like, she kind of sounded like she was trying
Well, I
to
mean,
demean
for writing and stuff, I don't think that it really matters whoever
You're
is
not considered the best writers in the music industry.
the best
I don't
writers.
even know enough about
See
it.
that's yeah, I get. If we're going by the numbers, it would have to be Drake's crew, but I don't even know. Probably.
Like we talked about.
Of
There's
someone
there's
I
group
listen
of
to
10 niggas
myself.
that incorporate, that make Drake. Aubrey Graham is not the best songwriter. But
See,
Drake-
I'll say the white boy answer, and I do quite like Jack Harlow. I like his stuff. His most recent album was a miss for me, but his stuff prior to that, I actually did like.
Niggas love to hate Jack Harlow.
I'm not saying I hate him. I'm just saying he's damn sure not.
Seen
the
him
best
live
songwriter.
too. I've seen him live, and
You saying best songwriter right now or best songwriter of our lifetime?
oh, if we're going lifetime,
Because
I'd probably have to say
I need
Kanye,
That's
right?
what I was gonna say. If I was gonna say lifetimes, I was gonna go with Kanye.
Kanye's still making music, so.
I know, but I don't.
Yeah, but his like
I'm
just
sure
said
he
about
goes
the
to-
Jack Harlow album. His most recent album isn't nearly as good as College Dropout or
Right, if I was thinking more
Graduation or Late
recent-
Registration.
I don't even know if Jack Harlow's most recent album did Donda numbers. 'Cause
Yeah, but Donda- but it's
Jack
about the
Harlow's
following.
Jack Harlow's stuff sells.
It's about the following. Okay, let me put it this way: did Donda do even close to Drake's newest album?
They both did close to the same.
They did. So
Well,
and that's two weak
I mean-
albums from two extremely successful
Every
artists.
single album Kanye's released,
But this day and
it's
age,
reached
though-
top one, number one, at least at one point after he's released. The only
because of
one,
the following in the name, like I said.
the only one that didn't reach number one and it reached number two was his first album. So then every single
College
album,
Dropout didn't
yeah,
reach number one.
yeah, it reached two.
They got Grammys. That's that's crazy.
Who's
Right.
won,
I don't know that.
He went 4 for 4. The first 4 albums were released. I'm pretty sure he went 4 for 4 with great album of the year.
Oh yeah, no,
He's-
like
that's why when
that,
it
when
comes
he
to
goes up on
lyricism, I'm like,
stage,
it's yay, man.
when he went up on stage and he was like, they were asking me, oh, that's.
Oh no,
that's-
it's his quote
yeah.
when he's like, I guess the world will never know.
Right, literally, because one of the people were like, Kanye, how are you gonna feel or how are you gonna react if you lose? And he said, guess we'll never know. He said, as he has the award,
As he's holding
in
his
his-
bitch, bro. I'm like, that's that nigga, man.
And yeah, no, old Kanye before he lost his, even a little bit after he lost his mom, I think he still had a little bit because I think that's what really did it for his mental.
Yeah, a lot of if you
That'll
think,
do that to anybody. So.
Cause when did she die? In 2008.
Yep, she passed right before
My Beautiful
808s.
Twisted Dark.
No,
and
808s.
Yeah, no, both. That's what I'm saying.
'cause
So both of
808s
those albums are fire, though.
808s, he lost his mom and his girl that of a.
Jack Harlow's most recent album only did a third of the sales that Donda did.
Really.
That's why I don't even put Jack Harlow.
Kanye West. That's
That's
the
why
Kanye
when you
name.
said Jack Harlow, it made me just chuckle because I was like, Jack Harlow I wouldn't put in that class. I'm putting up YoungBoy.
YoungBoy be good.
YoungBoy might be a songwriter that could probably be up there.
YoungBoy drops a video, 1 to 2 videos on YouTube every week, and they all do at least 3 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. And if you think about it, he's on his third album
He's on
this
that
year.
algorithm.
Was it his third album this year? Or is it 2? Or is it 3?
No, I mean, and Jack Harlow.
I think it's his third album this year.
And if I was gonna judge Harlow as, is he a better rapper or is he a better celebrity? I'd be like, oh yeah, he's loads better celebrity than he's
Right.
a rapper, 100%.
He's a personality damn near that can get some lyrics handed to him.
Rap
That's what I'm telling you.
rap isn't like my main genre. So when I do listen to rap, Jack Harlow has been this year so far the person that I probably had listened to the most.
You gotta-
even though he didn't have a good last album.
Like I'm saying, he's a personality that's probably handed some really, really good lyrics, and also he has some rhythm, so he can stay on beat.
Well,
And,
I think he sounds fine. I don't think he
That's what I'm
sounds
saying.
all
He's got rhythm.
like.
So
I
he-
Okay.
'Cause do you know what
I keep saying? I keep hearing this ghostwriter comment. So who do you listen to that you think actually writes their lyrics?
After
I listen to Kanye, you know this religiously. Like I genuinely do, and I mean,
I
know
think-
Kanye
I don't-
writes his lyrics.
I don't know.
He definitely has some people probably write some of his stuff, but most.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel
Blake.
like
He's working with James
Kid
Blake
Cudi
now.
doesn't have-
2 to 3 of Kanye's albums.
What'd you say?
not the whole album.
Kid Cudi
He helped him for sure.
wrote which
My Beautiful Twisted Dark Fantasy.
He helped write on that.
Um,
A lot of people. Jay-Z helped him write on My Beautiful.
Life of
a lot of people
Pablo.
helped him.
he helped.
I'm just saying Kanye definitely has a team. That's what I'm saying. Is I
Jay
feel like
Z.
every
That's
rapper.
another artist I listen to who definitely
got
writes his own
somebody.
Well,
lyrics.
they have somebody, even if it's not
Jay-Z
publicly, they
writing his
have
own
somebody
lyrics.
that they're going to.
But like it's like Kanye only had Cudi write it because he didn't have the time to write it. Like it's
No,
not
that's
like
so
they're
fair.
like, yo,
I can't write
Kid,
this.
Write me a hit. Like
Right.
it's just like,
I mean,
yo,
Kid Cudi's music.
And that's why I said Jay Z's another one where I would say I listen to consistently, who also writes his own stuff. And
Yeah,
there's
Jay-Z's
stories
great.
of Jay Z being like, I write a hit in
his
15
music's
minutes.
full of triple entendres.
That's what I'm saying. I write a hit in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
like
it's
that's
like-
just Jay Z. Literally, there's a lot of artists who will say, yeah, he can do that.
But Jay Z copped out and he sold out, and he's all about art collection now.
Is he really?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
like,
the
it's like
444.
how he,
Didn't you not listen to the album?
Yeah.
well, and that's
So I'm
how
trying to
he's
give you $1
making.
million worth of game for $9.99.
He also has his own music platform, and he's just very business oriented.
Yeah, he's like
Sucks.
he's like what P Diddy strived to be.
Well, it's what P Diddy could never be
Right.
because it's.
P Diddy was there before him.
Actually,
if you
P
think
Diddy
about it,
probably discovered more
That's what I'm
talent.
saying.
Like JB was one of the most. Still is to
Yeah,
some
he's
people.
up there.
Right.
Nah,
For like
nah.
popularity, 100%.
Wait, you're saying that P Diddy's discovered more popular artists than Jay Z?
Most likely.
Who is Jay Z discovered?
Right? I couldn't
Cole.
even name. Oh, did he
J.
really?
Cole.
Did he really?
Yes.
Okay, but like, didn't P Diddy discover Biggie, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
He didn't discover him. He
No.
came
Kanye, or
Jay Z also kind of discovered Kanye. He gave him his shot. So like that's a fact too.
yeah, Jay Z did
So
give
that's
Kanye
Kanye
a shot.
and J. Cole.
So
I mean, that's like two.
You're
of
not
the
wrong
biggest,
about
like,
that at
top,
all.
That's 2 of the top 10. Probably
you're not wrong
artists.
about that.
They
Jay
rap.
Z's just lurking in the shadows.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm pretty sure there's other artists who Jay Z's also giving shots to as well.
Dog.
Hello. Hello, dog.
Well, on that, y'all, you know what? We ain't gonna give you any sports today. We just gonna cut it short right there. It's been
a healthy discussion.
I was gonna say it's been healthy.
Good.
Of
It's
disagreement
been-
and
I won't
agreement.
even say-
agreement.
I won't even say it's been short and sweet, y'all. It's been long
And I hope y'all enjoyed yourself.
and argumentative.
100%. And I hope if at one point, if you didn't learn anything, it sparked your interest into looking into something that you may have just overlooked in your browsing.
Right. And
But-
please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And follow us on all of our platforms. We're on Twitter and everything. You know, all the social media joints. So we appreciate y'all's time. Have a
Cool.
blessed day.
Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Bye.